everybody, welcome back to the Pylon Show. We are on episode number 81 here today. It's going to be a fun episode where we talk about how to make content and teach newer players, which is actually something that really needs to be addressed, and we keep talking about how it needs to be addressed. So today we're going to try to address it with three people who do just that. Go ahead and introduce these nerds. Shamtu.
Yes.
You're surrounded by StarCraft 2 people. How do you feel? How you doing?
I feel outnumbered and worried and scared.
All right.
But it's okay. My feeling of superiority, because that's the toxic brood war mindset that you have to be in, evens out everything.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you for joining us here today. Vibe, welcome back. It's been a while, and all I hear from the masses is that you're amazing. So how do you do it? What are you up to?
Yo, man, thanks for having me back. It's always good to be here. You know, I don't have that brood war superiority, unfortunately, but I'm doing my best in StarCraft 2. No, I basically, you know, I just, 3 years of experience, just try to like really break it down for people that don't know what's going on. And it's going pretty well, I guess. Everyone's liking it, so it's good.
Yeah, they really are. And then I believe for the first time now, Aorit, how are you doing?
Great, jittery, excited to be here, highly caffeinated. Ready to talk about some beginner stuff.
All right, excellent. Well, before we get into the main topics here, we are going to go ahead and talk about the sponsors real quick and then dive into this week in StarCraft. First up, check out matcherino.com. It's matcherino.com/ThePylonShow. And on this page, we raise funds for the Pylon Show. You can click contribute and type in Jello as the coupon code. And it just $1 appears out of thin air. If enough of you do this, the world's economy will probably crash. Please go ahead and do that. It takes so little time. And Matcherino is such an important site for the entire esports scene, really. They do a lot of good. We also have all sorts of new mugs and shirts and stuff like that down there if you are interested. The main way that the Pylon Show runs, though, is through our Patreon. Patreon.com/ThePylonShow. A big thanks to everyone who has supported. If you'd like to do things like get your questions answered by everyone at the end of each episode, and we have all sorts of behind-the-scenes content and things like that, check out patreon.com/ThePylonShow. And of course, check out our website at ThePylonShow.com. It has absolutely everything. If you want to download it via podcast or watch it on YouTube or watch it on Twitch or leave a Patreon question or talk in the forums or find show notes to find This Week in StarCraft stuff, it's all there, ThePylonShow.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get into This Week in StarCraft, where we talk about everything that's happened in the past week and is coming up and all that. Of course, if you have stuff going on in StarCraft, please submit it to us on our Discord. I believe we have a Discord command in the chat, and I'm sure you can find it on ThePylonShow.com, like I mentioned. And of course, anything that I kind of skate over, you can find a lot more information within the show notes. All right. Jumping down to page number 3, some upcoming events that we'll be going over here include the ESL Open Cups, Bombastic Star League, Season 8, the TLNet Map Contest 14 tournament phase, and Africa TV StarCraft League Season 9, which just got announced this morning that myself and Tasis will be back on. Cannot wait. All right, moving forward, the ESL Open Cups. We have a list of the upcoming ones. Of course, each region has it. Not that many players signing up too far in advance. Go and sign up. Have a good time. Play against the world's best players in these. The Bombastic Star League Season 8. We have the finals coming up. Of course, this is some Brood War stuff occurring. Gorinich, also known as Not For You, one of the oldest school players. He played way back when I played the whole time. Always been the best Russian Zerg. Took down Dandy and advances to the finals. And then Bonneth 3-0'd TT1 and is in yet another big tournament finals.
Those games were insane. You got to go back and watch those. Well, I mean, so Bonneth TT1 was I love TT1, but it was a comedy of errors. But Gorinich Dandy, I think, was Gorinich had his number, and I don't know how anybody is supposed to stand up to him.
Wow. Well, this actually before Rapid messaged me because he was casting this and asked, what do you think about this, the top 4? And I go, I think Dandy will beat Gorinich. That's a reasonable guess. I'm like, I think TT1's going to take down Bonneth, and he literally laughed at me. And then I woke up the next day and checked the results, and Yeah.
Or
Didn't predict
TT1.
that too.
It was a lot of not like this moments with TT1 in the beginning stages of each of the games, and that just Boneth is dirty, man. Like he just starts cutting probes, and you're like, all right, well, whoever he's against is gonna die.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what TT1 was telling me. I messaged him because I'm like, what happened, man? Like, I was saying you were going to take this. And he was saying that early game of Boneth, man, you can't get into the mid game without being behind. Well, guys, check out the finals. It's sure to be good. Boneth versus Gorinich over at Zero's Twitch channel. All right. The Wordy TV Team Liquid Map Contest Tournament number 6. This is actually very, very important. It is going on right now. Well, I don't know if it's going on right this second. Probably not, because it's the middle of the night for Wardy, but that probably wouldn't stop him. But it is occurring February 13th, which is today/tomorrow for the whole world. It has Group Korea, and then Group EU will be playing on Valentine's Day. Go ahead and check that out over on Wardy's channel. The Freaka TV StarCraft League Season 9, ASL 9. Myself and Tasteless will be back casting this for you. It is a ridiculously awesome lineup. It's the most Terran players we've ever had in the ASL. Luckily, we have some maps they can't win on, so only Flash will probably be advancing. Check it out. It starts this Sunday. It's a sick lineup of players, though. It's like so good.
Shout out to the fact that Flash said he was never going to play another tournament again. He's in ASL 9. And Sulky joined the military, and he's in ASL 9.
Dude, isn't that so funny? Oh my God. Sulky's on military leave right now. So now he's just back on the tournament scene, and here he is. So the fact that we have Sulky, Bisu, and Flash all playing, everyone needs to tune into this. It's going to be ridiculous. All right, this week in StarCraft, ESL Cup Korea, we had Zest defeat Bomber 3-0 in the finals. Okay, well, Bomber's side of the bracket. Look at that. Hero beat Parting 2-1. Huh. That's wild. Look at that. This is like all these old names like Bomber, Hero, and Parting all on one side of the bracket. Yeah. What fucking year are we in right now?
That was actually
okay.
A really
Zest
cool
fixed everything at the end. All right. Excellent. A lot of Protoss players playing that one. Definitely check that out. Cast by Zombie Grub, Creighton Olsen, Chicken Man, and Renegade X Studios. We also had EU Cup number 5. Neeb defeated Hero Marine 3-2. Damn, Hero Marine is winning almost every cup at this point, but Neeb takes him down, fights back for America. This was cast by Mint Crystal, O Gaming, Marelekos, Chicken Man, and Grant and Vincent. Go check out those VODs. We also have NA Cup number 5 with Denver defeating Bly in the finals. Looks like Future and TLO both made it into the round of 4 as well. Congrats there to Denver for a nice, strong tournament win. Wordy TV Team League Season 9. We have Fantastic 5 versus Team Liquid coming up. I believe that's not quite the finals. It's versus MKers in the finals? I don't know. The bracket's kind of funny looking. But anyways, check that out again over at Wordy's channel. Olima League, number 181. Zest won another tournament this week, 3-2 over Ragnarok. You know, as always, I love to kind of pump this tournament up and let you guys know this is the greatest place to get StarCraft replays for the most part. Check it out, patreon.com/Olimoli if you'd like to support. And of course, check out the casts. It's normally Maynard doing it. Sometimes someone like Zombie Girl will do it as well, so you can check out their channels. We also have the Grand Platypus Open. Go Joey, 3-1 over Azure in the finals for number 17. You can check that out on Cranky_Ducklings on Twitch. We also have the Battle for the of the Americas with Cham taking down Eggs in the finals there. Oh, our boy Pure Legacy, top 4. All right. Good going, man. $50 prize pool. There's always so much drama around that guy.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like every month or so, there's a Reddit thread that pops up. They're, how are we letting this happen?
Yeah,
I don't know. Anyways, you can check that out. It was, again, on Cranky_Ducklings on Twitch. We also have Passion Craft Sunday Showdown. Marsman took out Blue 3-1 in the finals. This is in cooperation with OSC. They have a Discord if you want to check it out. The Shirshadi Open. We had Parting taking down Starkiller in the finals there. Starkiller coming back. Look at that. 2-0 over Cham. So pretty sick. Starkiller is one of our boys that we really we watch out for. The pizza monster himself, rising through the ranks. Congrats to Parting for that victory. You can check it out over on Sheer Shoddy on Twitch. All right, this is the best slide in here right now. The Ow Die Weekly. Justice Simon, our boy band member from Vietnam, defeated Death 3-0 in the finals.
It's pretty impressive, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah. Nah. With looks like that, man, even death can't stop you. Congrats to Justice Simon for the victory. All right, the Underdogs 2020 season number 1. This is the big French tournament over at O Gaming SC2 on Twitch, with a lot of really great players. Looks like Clem versus Denver and Drogo versus DNS in that top 4. Loser bracket still going on. Definitely check it out over on O Gaming. And then we have the Alpha X Junior Championship Season 3. It looks like 2 players are in the top 4 with Young Yakov and Baby Marine, who, for anyone who has not heard this yet, that is Rainer's little brother who plays Terran. So kind of an exciting thing. You probably want to go check that out. Group B will play this weekend to seed the other 2 players in. Of course, this is a tournament for players that are 15 years old and younger, put on by Alpha X. Very exciting to see the future of foreign StarCraft 2. All right, we also have the 2020 NA Apprentice Season 1 Finals, Future versus Suna and Silky versus Raze in the round of 4. And Saturday at 1 p.m. EST, Creighton Olsen will be casting it. So definitely check that out over on his Twitch. We have the Legacy Weekly Japan. Honmono beat Rilakuma 2-1 in the finals. If you speak Japanese and live in Japan, this is the tournament for you. Kung Fu Cup 2019. It looks like this is number 4 for the year so far. Innovation 3-2 over Cure, with even Dream making the top 4. I swear these patch Terrans are really taking over right now. You can check that out over on Wardy on Twitch. Of course, that's where everything is. There's more stuff on Wardy now than the StarCraft channel, the GSL channel, the ESL channel all put together. It's pretty crazy. All right, we have the Torneo 2 vs 2 StarCraft Sabato. It's brought to you by Jim Rising. It's a 2 vs 2 tournament on Saturday, 4 p.m. Mexico time. First place is Omen 800 headphones. Second place is $20. So I assume those headphones are worth more than $20. It's going to be over on Jim Rising's Twitch channel. So if you're interested in 2 vs 2, go take a look.
You put them on, the earpiece just falls off. You're like, oh, yeah. I don't know if I won, really.
Damn, I should have thrown the final match. Wait a minute. If it's a 2 vs 2 tournament, I hope that they're giving out 2 sets of headphones. Imagine that.
No, just 1 headphone set.
What if you have to share with your partner?
Well, it has 2 ear things, but like, can you fit another head in there? I don't know.
Yeah, actually, that's the question, right?
It's first and second place, so it's actually both the people on the winning team have to decide who was first and who was second. And one gets the headphones and one gets the $20.
It's like, you died, man. Oh, you let me die. It's a 2 vs 2. What the hell? All right, check it out over on Jim Rising's channel. All right, this week in AI, good at StarCraft, DARPA wants to train military robots with your brainwaves. Hooked up to EEG technology so that games designers can record their brain activity. As they play, their eye movements are also tracked by way of ultra high-speed cameras to see exactly how they respond to what they're doing. This information, which can be teased out using machine learning algorithms, will then be used to develop new algorithms that can help train large numbers of future robots. This doesn't even sound real. In particular,
is this what Fear Dragon's been working on?
Seriously. God, the government's going to come with a black van and take him away. In particular, the hope is that these insights into complex decision-making can improve coordination between large teams of autonomous air and ground robots. The researchers believe that by observing the type of tactical or strategic decisions humans take when they play a strategy game, it will be possible to work out which features and events motivate these actions. Wow. So there's this whole article can be seen on digitaltrends.com. That's fascinating. But imagine if they hook this up to a noob. Those robots are going to be terrible, man. They're just going to fail. All right. Very cool news. StarCraft 2 Amateur Championship registration closes on the 14th, which is tomorrow. Play starts on the 17th. And this is a European 1 vs 1 amateur championship tournament. And it has all sorts of different levels based on how good you are. So check it out if you're interested in playing. We also have the 2020 Winterland coming up in Atlantic, Canada, over in Halifax. It's a bring your own computer event in the Glass Room. If you live over near Halifax, definitely show up. Give some support to your local scene. We also have the Corporate Esports Association, the CEA, is thrilled to announce registration for the 2020 season. So the preseason, it looks like registration closes like tomorrow or the next day. So if you work in a company and you want to join this, go sign up right away. And if it's after the 14th, you're already too late. It's at cea.gg.
I'm trying to convince them to get some sort of potential Brood War in there.
That would be good. You can. Which team will you play for then? The StarCraft 2 or the Brood War one?
Porque no los dos. I play for both.
Oh, okay. Like, I don't speak that language. I'm sorry. All right. Well, hopefully someone in the world wants to run a Brood War tournament other than the 4 people in Brood War that run tournaments.
Yeah.
Epic Land 29, February 21st through 23rd in Kettering, England. Join the Discord and join the tournament. If you're in the UK, definitely something you're going to want to do. Looks like they have a giant group of nerds that like to play this. A lot of fun. The Esports Academy Montreal. In episode 79 of the Pylon Show. Ooh, sick shout out to the show during the show. TLO mentions, I'd love to see some esports programs in school and stuff like that, of course, but we're a pretty long way from that. Actually, TLO, you fool, in Montreal, we're already there. There are 3 high schools which offer an esports program, giving 20 hours per week of theoretical and practical training in esports from the 7th to 11th grade for a total of 3,600 hours of training. StarCraft has been chosen as the very first game to be taught to children in the program because of the game's long history in esports. Wow. I wish stuff like this existed back then, but what I want to know is who teaches these courses. I've never been asked to be a teacher. Who's doing this? Like, are they even GM? Like, I don't even, how does that work?
I can't afford you, Dan. That's all it is.
Yeah, of course. Check it out, mtlesportsacademy.com. All right, The Pig Show number 6 with guest Liquid Mana. The Pig Show is Pig's talk show podcast series with a new programmer on each week. The show delves into what who programmers are as people, what they learn to become the players that they are today, and the strategies they use to stay on track as a competitor in the hardest game in the world. Check it out over on Pig StarCraft on YouTube.
These are going up as an audio format later this week. There'll be 6 episodes when that goes live.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, another excellent StarCraft podcast for everyone to listen to. All right. Our StarCraft. Okay, so there was some drama with Rifkin and the mods. I did not keep, like, I saw it, but I already had this show booked and the next show pretty much booked for Pylon Show. So don't have a lot to say about this, but Rifkin made a big statement that's on Twitlonger. I believe he was permabanned from StarCraft Reddit, which seems very odd, but I don't know if you guys know more about this than I do, have any thoughts on this, but no? Okay.
I don't know what's going on here, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, this I will try to prepare something to speak more about it later, but yeah, I don't want to like just say something, just like be like, I don't know, I'm angry now. Wow.
Yeah,
get the pitchforks.
I know that there's been discussion around what people feel is like excessive moderation of just like meme content on the StarCraft Reddit. I'm assuming that's what Rifkin's comments were, but I haven't read them.
Okay. Well, just to make it clear to everyone, StarCraft Reddit is very important for the community, and so is Rifkin. So hopefully all this stuff can get fixed. I'll do some homework on this and we'll try to talk about this in the future. Okay, base trade TV contest. $100 USD cash contest. Clip your favorite StarCraft related moment this month and post it to their subreddit. It can be from Base Trade TV, Wardy, Pig, whoever. Most upvoted clips will be gathered for a final voting phase live on stream. So this graphic. I'm starting to understand what's going on. All right. This week in Brood War. We have the Titanus Del Ring Nation Wars, Canada versus Norway, and Poland versus Peru. Looks like that is the loser bracket. The finals are going to take place on February 22nd. You can definitely check that out. We also have the Brood War G's Weekly. Oh, DeWalt over Scan 1-0. I talked to Scan about that. DeWalt dodged an EMP for the game-winning move. So congrats to DeWalt. It's very rare that a foreigner is able to take out Scan, who's one of the best players out there. So
Artosis, why are you getting coached by a person who lives in Korea who lost to a foreigner? I don't get it. I feel like you can be going to better Koreans now, right?
I know.
Never mind the fact that Scan is top of the ladder or something like that right now.
Yeah. He's like he was number 2 on the ladder recently, so that's a big win by DeWalt. Congrats to him. All right. We also have the STPL, sponsored by Liquipedia. It looks like Soul Gaming is up in the lead. This is cast, of course, by Kix and Rapid over on SPL TV. You can go there to watch it on Twitch. The Russian Pro League is still going on. Group A had Gorinich and Defi cutting out of it. Group B, SPX, of course, and Dreamer. Looks like Group C has DeWalt and Lancer X, 2 big names in it. And Group D, looks like the underdog group. I think I only know Silver out of there. But a $300 prize pool. You can watch this over on Silver's stream, GG_Silver on Twitch. Have at you. What's going on with Have at you, Shamtu?
So it's just, another Have at you this week. Starts on Saturday, 3 p.m. PST. I got to go find a caster for that, or co-caster. Yeah, I don't know. Sign up, play in the game. Lose
Excellent.
Probably to some random Korean and or foreign pro.
Scan going to take you out. That's going to be it. All right. So check that out. Is that going to be on your Twitch channel?
Yeah, it's on twitch.tv/sham2.
Cool. And then we have the Coach Pupil League 5. I think you're quite involved with the Sham2, right?
Yeah. So this is like a lot of why I'm starting to do a whole bunch of content that we'll go on about later on. But the Coach Pupil League is basically the best way to learn Brood War is to have a coach, a dedicated coach. And the Coach Pupil League basically gives you that opportunity. Really good players help out tiers of players. So if you're brand new, you're probably tier 3. If you're at, 1500-ish, which is, where you basically start back out at, you're tier 2. And then tier 1 is like 1700 and above. So this basically is every week, I think. There is a team all kill format at the end. So you play against a whole bunch of players of your level. And it's really fun. You learn a lot. And, the more effort you put into it, the more you get back from it, basically.
Cool. Definitely good for people to sign up for if you want to become better. Yes. A lot of really strong players in there like Cadenzi and Horatoss and Future.
Yes, there's a lot of really good players in there that are there to help coach.
Yeah, very, very cool thing for people. Very hard to get into StarCraft 1 and 2. So a nice thing. We'll be talking a lot more about that all very shortly here. All right, moving on. The Undermine podcast. This is, of course, the one that's about Brood War AI development. We had an episode in the Pylon Show maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago. Really interesting stuff going on. In this episode of the Undermine podcast, Sanko gave a lightning talk at FOSDEM last week. Introduction to StarCraft AI and SSC AIT. The VOD is on his YouTube. We also have LA LAN number 2. All right. Afrika TV is hosting another LAN in Los Angeles. Prize pool of $1,000. I thought it said $100 when it was first announced, but that's pretty sick.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to this one, Sham2?
I am. I just bought flights this week.
Damn. March 7th. I don't think that my wife will let me fly to California for $1,000 tournament. I might not win, but the fact that someone's going to win an ASL jacket, which after 9 seasons, I still don't have one. Ugh, cuts deep. Guys, if you are in the area, even if you're a StarCraft 2 player, you want to go check this out. Seriously, if you like StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1, you're going to like the other one. And if you don't, that's really weird. And do what you want, but that's really weird because they're both great. But LA LAN number 2. Go watch it, play it. All right, this week in Awesome, All right, we have Afrika TV Valentine cards, which are just so goofy. I love the Rainer one. Oh. All right, well, Valentine's cards, guys. If you need Valentine's cards for some reason, Afrika TV's got you the hookup on their Twitter. We also have the Team Wardy TV, and so Wardy's making a professional StarCraft 2 team. This guy is just doing everything on Earth. He signed Rail. All right. Well, Rail's a very strong player. And congrats to Wardy and congrats to Rail for that partnership. And that's that for this week in StarCraft. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So back to the topics that we're talking about here this week. So my terminology might not be the best way to put this, but basically what we're talking about is teaching newer players or beginner players or whatever we want to talk about with this, like because it's actually a big thing that comes up on this show a lot. A lot of discussions devolve into how do we get more people involved with StarCraft, and that's both StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 because they're both a really hard game to enter a lot of the time. And so for this episode, just to run through what these guys do, like obviously Shamtu was just talking about Coach Pupil League. He's also started making some videos about things that sound basic, but really are not. Like you just made one about moving an SCV around your base, which is, you'd be surprised how high this goes. Like people ask me why Flash is better than everyone. A lot of times I tell people is SCV control is a huge part of it. And it's like, what? The starting worker? Yeah, no, there's a lot to StarCraft.
Oh yeah.
Then of course, Aorit, you've made a bunch of smaller videos, like very bite-sized content for newer players. That's actually how I first really heard about you, and we actually covered some of that stuff on the Pylon show.
Yes, I appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, no, of course. We appreciate that you make content like this. It's actually very, very important. And then, of course, Vibe. I have been like, I feel like, you know, I prefer to see people saying they love Vibe, because other than that, it's all just stupid drama shit that gets posted everywhere. But a lot lately, people have been very excited about some of your like bronze to GM or however high you end up going, and analyzing that and helping new players. And a lot of people are kind of giving you shout outs for raising their skill level. So I thought this was a great group of people to kind of start talking about this. And yeah. So I guess let's kind of jump into it. I want to know from you guys how you even think about how to create this content. Okay, because I know that this type of content needs to be made, but for myself personally, right, I've played StarCraft for like 20 years. When I started learning, like even what I learned back then doesn't even apply now. And then also it's been so all encompassing. I can't even think about how to teach someone new. It's hard to even get my brain to ratchet down, because so much just kind of, I don't even know how to word this correctly, but how do you guys even begin to think about this type of thing?
Go for it.
Okay. I was going to say, for me, it's like been a learning experience, because I've done a random series. I've done a previous series last year, and then now I'm doing this one too. And I've between all of it, I've coached people like individually one-on-one, and I've heard a lot of their questions. And a lot of people I used to think would excel, because they would always ask me for this, and I thought it was important. They'd always be like, what's the build order? I need build orders, dude. Give me the build orders, and that way I can improve better. And I've learned over time that if you teach someone who is not able to actually do a build order, it's a waste of time, in my opinion. It's like, well, okay, so we need to like worry more about like what we're scouting. It's not always going to be like you make a nexus at this exact time. What if somebody was like 12 pulling you and you're like, oh, I'm dead because I made a nexus? And you have to like teach people, just like, I feel like the way I went about it this time around is just like, what is like the most basic way you can play the game, but also be efficient while doing it? And then just like really just drill that into people's heads to where it's like second nature. It's automated reflexes now to where you don't even have to think about it and you do it. And then you like expand on like, you know, micro and like more elaborate scouting, like other like, you know, other types of dynamics to the game that are not basic anymore. You do that once they have just like muscle memory of basics, basically. That's kind of how I went about it.
Okay.
For me, I kind of approached it. It's funny, the thing that you're saying was hard for you, Artosis, was kind of what I identified as like an edge. So I started out and I was bronze, and I said, I'm going to do a learning focused stream you know, I was already into the culture. I watched a lot, but I was bronze. I was really bad at the game. So I'm like, okay, every time I learn something that nobody has explained, I'm going to do a video about it. And that covered a lot of ground. But eventually I got to a point where, you know, guys like Vibe are putting out, you know, Bronze to GM. Printf has Minute Micro now, which is just literally better bite-sized StarCraft 2. Like he's covering more advanced topic, and the, you know, the video series is just better than mine. So what I'm targeting now are the scared, nervous nerds like me. So when I started out, I didn't want to play because ladder is so scary. And, you know, now I look at it and I say, okay, look, if you just want to get better, like the roadmap is there. Like go watch Vibe's thing. He'll tell you how to play the game.
Thank you, man.
But there are a lot of people who are just even scared to hit the button, right? So now for me, it's kind of like, let's just do a learning focused stream where I'm like, hey, look, I'm hitting the button and I'm scared and sometimes I lose and I'm frustrated, and let's go along on that journey. And I'm kind of like trying to just explore that a little bit more, the mindset piece.
Great. Meanwhile, Brood War is just such an incredibly hard game to even just like remotely play that I'm watching newer players stream and I'm taking bits that I'm like, oh, I know how to fix those problems that they have. Like, I can't fix strategy problems because my strategy in Brood War is terrible. And I can't fix like reaction problems because mine are terrible. But I know what I can fix, which is like, you know, this person clearly doesn't hotkey their command center and then hit 5S, you know, every tick that the SCV should be ready. And so I'm approaching it from the bare minimum, which is the mechanics problem. Like, if you want to go learn a build order, you want to go learn it, you can go to Jinjin's channel. He translates Flash's VODs. If you want to learn Zerg, you can go watch Cadenzi. She's got, you know, a ton of like Zerg tutorials. And then if you get into the CPL, like once you hit tier 2 is where people can really start helping you. But for like tier 1, it's just like so many of the pros in Brood War are so far away from what they're even thinking about that like they don't even know what to tell you. They tell you basics, but that doesn't really help you, you know? It's like you know, they're basically just saying, well, you know, like everything's bad, or your supply is late, or you're off build, and you know, that's not great. And it's just like, okay, that doesn't actually help a brand new player. They're not even there yet. So I'm trying to build a series where I teach people the very, very basic things. I just did the one for SCVs. I'm trying to remember how to video edit. And the next one I'm going to do is selecting groups of units and like tips and tricks with that.
Well, you kind of like pointed towards something I wanted to ask you guys, because you hear like a lot of, let's say that you just have someone that's a really good player that's streaming, right? And then people will be in there and like be asking for tips and things. And I feel like over time, what I've probably said it a lot of times to newer players that ask like, what do I need to work on? Or, you know, I see pros say it to newer players a lot, is like, just keep building workers, for instance. That's like a very popular kind of easy get out of jail free thing to tell new players. Is something like, are you guys finding that things like what I'm trying to figure out is like, is that actually good advice for a new player? Like, what are the things that you're hearing that people say to new players a lot that you don't actually find to help them that much compared to like what actually does help them a lot?
I feel like for me, if you like kind of what Shantu was saying, if you just generalize something, or if somebody goes like, what do I need to do in like, let's just say like Zerg versus Protoss, and you're just like, I'm gonna tell you to go Lingbane Hydra, and that's all you say, and the guy's like, all right, I'll just make Lingbane Hydra, and you look at how they play, and it's like, I'm gonna go double gas one base, get a really quick layer, and then I'll take a natural and have like 25 drones and go Hydras. You're like, okay, well, not quite what I meant, but you're somewhat doing it. I do think like being very specific definitely helps people, and I actually think the making workers constantly thing is definitely actually good advice, because every time you watch any new player play, they always just like tunnel vision anything. I'll Reapers in my base, and I'm not going to build anything for the next 45 seconds or 2 minutes. And then they just like, they fall so far behind, and then they get this like perception where the middle of the game happens, and they think that, whatever problems arise in the middle of the game are only in the middle of the game.
Yes.
But it's because of the early game that problem even exists. And if they just macro and do it properly in the early game, that problem just gets deleted and it's not even there anymore.
Yeah, this is the how do I deal with carriers, right? Don't let your opponent right? Yeah, I think the the like tried and true, just work on your macro thing is legitimate, and it does help newer players. And I think that what we aren't saying, what isn't a part of the conversation, is you do have to nuance it. And this is kind of like, I think what Vibe was getting at earlier, like, you can do that and get to plat or diamond, but then it gets really weird and hard, and you have to start knowing other stuff. Like, I still have flaws in my macro. I'm at diamond level right now. But there's a lot of new things that I'm needing to layer in and learn. So, it's like focus on your macro, but you're going to have to learn other stuff later.
The problem that I always run into with a lot of pro advice is they typically will give kind of like those sweeping statements of like, just make more SEVs, or oh, my favorite for Brood War is just lay more mines. Like, oh, you just don't lay enough mines. Like, you should need to lay more mines. It obviously, like, that kind of targeted, like, if the coaching aspect, and this is why I really like CPL, is like so much better. The kinds of things that like I've learned is more just mindset things than it is do this thing in the game. TT1 was actually giving me some great advice yesterday, which was like, well, you lost your barracks, so you couldn't build any more factories. So you have to think about, what do you have? You already had an armory. So why don't you just say to yourself, well, I've got an armory. Why don't I just go for upgrades and take a slow push and take like another expansion? Like, it's the mindset things more so than, well, your build is off and you couldn't do the build that you wanted to do, so quit the game and start up and do a new game where you get the build right. And it's just like, it's not as helpful. It's like StarCraft is very much a game of improvisation, where if you're going for, siege tanks and Hellions, and all of a sudden your opponent's building battle cruisers, you're like, well, I guess I just lose this game. No, you got to like think outside the box and think about how to like break that. And I think a lot of good pros that give me a lot of great advice are more how to change your mindset about things than it is to just say like, oh, well, you need to build those SCVs. Because yes, you can work on those mechanics, and you can say like, well, first off, build your SCVs, but secondly, let's talk about your mindset in this situation. I think those are the more helpful things to tell noobs.
For sure.
But mechanics, of course, will always come back around, right? Like, you always have to like, it's that like yin and yang of mechanics and what is like, how do you approach the game in general?
Yeah. I think too, going further with that as well, with like good advice, basically. I think a big part of it too is being able to narrate your own experience. Like, you can actually play the game while telling people what you're doing. And it's not just like saying things like, well, I'm going to, like, if you're Protoss, for instance, and let's just say you're going to fight against Roach Hydra and you have like Void Ray Zealot or something random like that. And instead of saying, well, I'm just going to attack him and we're going to kill him and we're going to move on. You actually can explain like, okay, so I'm going to actually set up like a flank with my Zealots, and I'm going to let my Void Rays A move, because, and you explain why. You can be like, my Void Rays are going to actually aggro the Hydras because they actually have, like, the way the AI works is they will shoot the anti-air unit first rather than the Roaches. And the Zealots, if you just focus them on the Hydra, it'll make it to where your whole goal there is to just kill Hydras. So you just weaken them faster, and then the problem is solved, and like you move on to the next fight. And actually, like, explaining that, there are so many people that don't know about just simple mechanics of the game. Like, they don't know what aggro is. They don't know what AoE is. They don't know what they don't know how to differentiate like move speeds. Like, they just look at the game so basically. And if you actually just elaborate and break it down, they're like, oh wow, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I feel like I understand way more now that that's how you do something like that.
It's funny. This actually reminds me of I was really struggling in college with calculus, because teachers were like constantly just telling you all these mechanics and memorization techniques, and I was just like, I just don't get this like lesson, this material. And someone sat down and was like, well, you know why you're doing this, right? And I'm like, no, this is the formula. I pop the things in here. And he goes, no. Let's break this down. Let's go back in time. Let's go like put down the derivatives of this thing that you're working on, and look, it's just this in a different form. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like, this is why I'm doing that? Now I get it. And it's just like, it's those moments where it's just like, you're doing this roach push at this timing because you're trying to punish this. If that doesn't exist, then this whole chain falls apart. So you need to know why you're doing those things in order to get the actual idea of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Is that like a good starting point for teaching new players? Like, try to give them that type of like the foundation of why, as opposed to do these specific things. Like, you know, the difference between giving instructions like, okay, make SCVs and make a lot of units, right, versus here's what our goals are, or whatever, right? Like, here's what we're trying to accomplish. What's the right way to really start out with a very new player, do you think?
I think you just like make it like a staircase. Like a new player, you want to break it down like super basic, because I actually had people like, I got this kind of stuff in my chat all the time when I was doing like Silver League or something like that. They're like, dude, why aren't you rapid firing right now? Why you're not rapid firing that? Don't you know how to rapid fire? And I'm like, okay, we're not going to teach people in Silver League how to rapid fire yet.
Yeah.
It's like way over the top. We don't need to do that right now.
Exactly.
Just relax. So just like take it like step by step, basically. And once they get to a point where you think they can handle it, I mean, it's a judgment call, but you just do it then, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I agree with that as well. Like, you need to figure out where that person is, and that's really kind of the hard part about making like very generic tutorial content, is that you don't know where all of your audience is. And that's why I'm starting at the bare basics, because I'm like, there's going to be some people who don't know how to move an SUV across the base. So I might as well like hit as big of a glob as I can at first and then start narrowing it down. But I think you need to teach people why, because if they just get all the way to Diamond League, right, and they're really good at this one build, but then they're like, you know, they're starting to lose because of a patch or something like that, they're going to get really frustrated that they can't learn a new build or understand why these other things happen, because they've worked so hard on that one workflow of cannon rushing into DT teleports, right?
Yeah, this is a huge thing, and it is actually something I've been hitting really hard lately. So I kind of am almost like the result of the experiment of like, what happens if you do the traditional wisdom, right? Everybody's like, just do your macro, whatever. Well, I kind of did that, and I streamed it, right, from bronze to like mid diamond. And yeah, what happens is exactly what Shamtu was saying. Like, you have your one build, your rote little workflow that you've kind of gone through. And if the game looks like that, you're kicking ass, right? You're just destroying people. But if it looks like anything else, you're a disaster, and you're frustrated and sad and scared. And it's kind of scary to hit that, because now I go, well, okay, what do I do? Like, how do I map out all of these other branches that a game can go? Is it, you know, do I have to practice as much as I did to get here for every other possible, you know, thing in the possibility space of a game of StarCraft? Or how do I build that out? And I actually don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah. Well, that's actually something I wanted to bring up. You kind of like led me right into it. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but they're trying to design things like an iPad or something, you know, just like a tablet where you could give it to a child that doesn't know anything about anything, doesn't know how to read or anything, and it'll kind of teach them by itself the whole way. It's like this new idea that I've heard about that they're trying to do, drop it off in like remote villages or something to teach kids how to program, to teach them how to read, all that type of stuff, right? Where you don't necessarily need a human that knows these things they're teaching you. I wonder, do you guys think that there is some way to make video content where like it's in order, and you can kind of just teach a player with this, like some sort of like evergreen content that is always going to be useful and can level people up, like let's say get them to Master League or something over time? Is it possible to make something like that?
I think it would only work if it was like, if the game never got patched, honestly. I think the patch has definitely changed it up a little bit, because you might actually do a build that's just like ridiculously good one patch, and then suddenly something gets nerfed really hard and you're like, well, it sucks now, so you probably should stop.
Yeah.
So I don't, yeah.
Okay.
no patches, I guess.
So long live Brood War, because that'll never get patched, and that content will always stay good.
Yeah, Sham2's the only one safe making content out here.
Yeah, I guess in a way, all StarCraft 1 content never gets dry. Okay, so that's not really as doable. So is this like something that just continually needs to be updated for newer players? Like, because I guess I'm kind of like selfishly asking questions towards my own direction, because I'm like, I would like to help newer players, but I don't want to like make something and then it doesn't work anymore after a year, and then it's like not worthwhile, and I'd feel bad. I'd be like, well, I should just delete this because I don't want people getting the wrong information or something.
Yeah, I think there's certain things that are evergreen, and then there are others that aren't, right? So, you know, if it's like how to hold the flavor of the month, you know, weird Terran proxy thing, like, yeah, that's going to expire, right? But if it's, you know, again, something like Bronze to GM, where it's, you know, layering you up. Hey, if you're just coming in the door and you don't know how to chrono boost a probe, like, let's kind of show you that. That's gonna, you know, I mean, bad example because they keep changing chrono, but you know, stuff like that, right? Like, make workers, don't get supply blocked. These are like fairly generic advice kind of things, but I think the higher up you go, the less evergreen the content becomes. Maybe.
Agreed. I agree with
that
you.
makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, I feel like they're honestly, for like StarCraft 2, for at least, I think Diamond League, like, doesn't have to be the very beginning of Diamond League, but like in the lower tiers of Diamond League is when you actually need to make new content all the time. And anything before that, the way I try to like always kind of break it down to people, if I coach somebody who's in like lower than that, or if I'm just doing the content that's lower than that, I always say, you're never going to play a proper game at any point below that anyways, because you're never going to, like, if you have a guy who you're like, I'm copying Cyril's build and he maxes at this time, and you're like, well, you're maxing 5 minutes later than he did, so it's not even actually really the game. It's like something totally different. Like, if you can't actually execute the build itself, it doesn't actually apply anymore. So just teaching them the basics, it can be really repetitive, and you can make one thing that's like, it could be used year after year after year up until that point. But once you hit that point, and then you actually start teaching them more advanced things, like you need to scout properly, you need to react, you need to theory craft, like what's going to be good here. You need to micro certain things that get patched or whatever. Like, micro becomes an element. Then that's when you have to make new content after new content after new content, in my opinion.
And there's even some generic things there, right? Like, something I got out of watching your series Vibe is this notion of like, okay, what am I seeing and what could it mean, right?
Yeah.
And like, sure, those things are going to change with the meta, but that sort of like cognitive process, right? That is portable from meta to meta, or, you know, little different shifts.
100%, yeah. Like, just something as simple as seeing a guy go double gas or one gas, you could be like, well, he's teching hard, or he's going to probably expand. And you eliminate these questions of people always being like, he's got hidden bases, dude. Scout now. Like, you got to find them.
I always, like, when I used to play a lot of StarCraft 2, I basically kind of broke down the leagues, and I'm not sure if this is still accurate, but basically from, I would say, bronze to mid diamond, maybe low masters, I always considered as someone is learning their race.
Yeah.
Like, they're learning how Terran works. And then once you get to like mid masters and above, you're starting to learn how the other races work, like, against you, basically. Right? Like, you get into their base, you're reading their timings, all that stuff when you're in mid masters, you know exactly what to do in that response. But basically, up until like diamond, like, most likely, except for like, you know, the big sweeping things like, oh, they're building this unit, I need to build another unit. Like, I never felt like it was like super important. And that's why I kind of agree that like at diamond is probably, yeah, you need to have like consistently new meta material. But before then, like a silver player, build 60 Marines by 4. I don't know, actually. I don't know what StarCraft 2 timings are anymore, because y'all put more workers in.
Sure.
Highly controversial.
Yeah. What about the Brood War side of it, though, Sham2?
Oh, well, I mean, so that's the interesting thing, too. I mean, I'm like, I float 15 to 1600, and I would arguably say I need to know my race better, and I need to know my macro timings better. But Brood War is also, I think, compared to when I was learning StarCraft 2, Brood War feels a little bit more visceral with if you're not paying attention to your opponent, because like the game is so scientifically found out now that we're like playing with the bare minimum of things to get as far ahead as we possibly can. You know, you're like 1 Marine before you expand. God forbid you get like 17 Zerglings. Like you kind of need to know some of those timings, but it's not nearly as ridiculous as, you know, the pro levels of Brood War, where they're like, oh yeah, well they saw 2 Dragoons at this moment, which means that there should have been a 3rd Dragoon. Since that 3rd Dragoon's not there, that's enough for a Reaver off in the side corner of the map, you know? So I think it's definitely there, but I don't think I'm necessarily at that point where I can like start laying down where I think everybody's skill level is.
Okay, fair enough. So something that I was really kind of wondering, like I kind of asked before and you guys kind of said a little bit, but you know, like sometimes you'll say something and people will be like, wow, that really helped me, and that'll keep coming up again. I was wondering if we could go over a few of those things, because like for instance, like I guess 2 of the things that I said like way back at the beginning of GSL, people still quote to this day and they're like, wow, that was, you know, that helped a lot or whatever, which was like, when you get ahead, get more ahead. And then if they're attacking, defend, if they're defending, expand, if they're expanding, attack. I just made that like little triangle for people as like a real basics thing. And like to this day, I still have people messaging me like, wow, you know, that's helpful. So I wonder what types of things that you guys have taught or found that, you know, just for anyone that is a newer person, like watching this stuff, like what are some of these like gem things that you've taught people over time? Just to reiterate what I was just asking of everyone, it was we're talking about like things that you've taught people or put out there that you're hearing back are really, really useful. Like the top things that have really gone over well with people that watch you. Go ahead.
For me, I think mostly it's been mindset stuff, actually, which I would say I feel kind of good about, because there aren't like a ton of people doing that. Like you get a lot of it with neuro, and I think everybody kind of touches on it to an extent, right? Because it's like just so prevalent for all of us. I think that's probably the main thing.
Okay.
For me, it was when I used to play tournaments, I would sit on people's computers, like, because it's LAN, and you'd be like, wow, this guy doesn't have a keyboard repeat delay on very fast at all. Like, feels super slow. And like the same with the mouse, you're like, this thing is going everywhere because of enhanced pointer precision. So I would actually, I would tell people that, and so many people never used it. And I just something as simple as like people asking, how do you increase your APM? I want to have faster APM when I play. And you like just say, okay, make the keyboard repeat delay faster, and like everything macros faster. You have to like look at it or like focus on it less, and everything just happens quicker. And it changes people's playstyles so much, because you like a Zerg player who's like, I'm going to make 20 larvae and Zerglings, and as the mutas like fly over like Marines, and you're like, I'm trying to make Zerglings right now, and everything's like dying. It takes so long. Like things like that happen less, just because of that. Something as simple as that. And then for like gameplay, it's the idea that I gave people, because I always watched a lot of people always attack the natural every single time. I'm like, okay, just send one unit out on the bottom and the top, scout every single base when you're ready to attack, and then kill the most exposed base every time. Because I just felt like if you killed like the newest base, especially in StarCraft 2, with how you have less money in your bases, and you also start with more workers, you mine out faster. So if you just eliminate someone's newer bases over and over and over, you actually put them into starvation mode all the time. If you can successfully do that, and your chances of doing it are higher because there's less SimCity in your way. That's something I told people to do.
Oh, that's funny. I wouldn't have ever thought, especially of the just telling people turn off, mouse excel. Like, I would never think to like just tell someone. Like, I guess if I sat at someone's computer and they had mouse excel, like, what, you use mouse excel? Comment my mouth a little bit.
All you have to do is like touch their mouse for a second. You're like, wait, why is it so hard to point?
Something's wrong here.
I think one of the most useful things that I ever just kind of reiterate in my head, like one of those cliche, I wouldn't say motivational poster-esque kind of things, but like one of the things that like I would definitely put as a cliche quote for how I try to teach people how to play is, how do you lose right now? So you're playing TVT, you have them contained, you have 3 bases, they have 2. There's that one question that has to come into your head. How do I lose right now? They have an expanded, they have a hidden expansion. They're going for mass drops and trying to kill me in one move. They're popping out 30 BCs, which then leads Artosis into like this weird 17-minute long fight with BCs, and he still loses. That was a great match, by the way.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's true. It's that one thing that, like, I think of the generic phrases that you can teach someone is, all right, you're at this, constantly think about what is your win condition and what are your lose conditions. Like, what are the things that you're possibly going to lose to, and solve for those. And I think, like, putting it down into like that simple of a mindset and asking yourself, where am I in this game and how do I lose it, is a great way to help drive people to start making the better choices.
Yeah, and you get them thinking too. Also, when you do that, when you actually ask them a question,
Right.
and they start actually trying to break it down.
Yeah, that's one of those where, like, you can almost hear the coach in the back of your head while you're in the game. You're like, okay, wait, hang on. This is the part where I'm in a good position. I got to think about how I could lose from here.
That's actually something that I personally do. Like, if I get a good amount ahead, eventually my brain triggers. I'm like, okay, how can I lose? And just I will focus heavily on stopping every stupid thing that can occur. Yeah. Oh God, I had another really good question. Hold on a second. It just left my brain as I said that.
As soon as you give up on it, it'll come back.
I know, right? That's see, you're the mindset guy. There we go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Here it is. Okay, so you guys kind of mentioned this a little bit, but the cycling of I find this in my own play, right? Because I'm still actively trying to improve all the time. That because it's not like just mechanics and it's not just strategy, and I always feel like it's a cycling effort where, like, for instance, let's say I'm at a certain rank, and then, like, if I practice mechanics really heavily for a week, my mechanics will be better. But then my strategy has to catch up because I'm finding now that my mechanics are doing very well, but strategically I'm doing something stupid. So then I'll really heavily work on strategy and try to bring that up. And then my strategy will get really good, but suddenly I can't quite macro while doing all that strategy. So then I have to work on that again. Is this like, do you find that this is something that is like how these newer players are functioning as well? Or can you go for like a really long time on just one of these?
You can go for a really long time with mechanics. And hearing you say this, I'm like, I wonder if this is why I'm capped and why I'm so, like, confused and just scared about ladder. Yeah, I think the cyclical thing makes a lot of sense. I've heard this said in kind of a similar but different way about art, which sounds like totally unrelated, but the notion that you sort of have your ability to, like, make the art and your ability to critique the art, which is why all artists go through these cycles where they're like, I feel great about everything, and then they're like, I feel like my work is shit and I hate it. And it's because you know, one week you push up your art making skill, the other week you push up your critiquing skill. So I wonder if there's kind of a foil to that here.
I think self-critiquing is great, honestly. Like, you need to definitely don't be too hard on yourself that you actually, like, ruin your mood and, like, get depressed about it or get actually pissed off about it or something like that. Like, try to
tell me what to do.
Yeah, okay. But, like, always like thinking everything you do, whether you win or you lose, thinking, like, how can I do that better? Like, every time, how can I improve what I just did? And how can I make everything I'm doing more efficient, just, better in every way? And then don't ever get complacent where you're like, I did great. And that's exactly what I'm doing every time. Always think you can do better than you did and keep that going, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, looking at all of your replays, but, like, if you win and you feel good, go back and find something you did wrong, right? Or find where, like, you got away with a little something, your opponent didn't punish something that they could have.
I can echo that just real quick. Like, I'll play a game sometimes and be like, damn, I played so good that game. And I go back into the replay and then I'm like, I am the worst player I've ever seen.
I've done that before too, where I'm like, I played so good. Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, what the hell is, I don't even remember this. And you're like, okay, that didn't happen, but whatever.
Yeah. I definitely run into the cycle of I start with a basic build order that I get from Flash Replay or something like that. I get all the timings of that down. I'll practice it in single player to make sure I get it like pretty well. And then as I'm playing it versus other Zerg players or something like that, or Protoss players or Terran players, I start making little bit minute adjustments to just kind of like what is my style or what I lose to, because I'm not Flash, I'm not all these other people. So like what Flash can defend with, one Marine, I probably need about 2, and it delays the build order a little bit. But then I keep making these little micro adjustments, and so like the cycle for me is I keep making all these micro adjustments. I have made this beautiful build from Flash into this terrible monster of a thing that doesn't make sense anymore, and I'm like plummeting back down to like the 1200s. And then I'm like, okay, well, clearly I have done a lot of things wrong. So let's go back. Let's go watch this video again, rebuild it back to what the god has done, and and make it back in his image again. So it's that's my cycle mostly. I think my mechanics in Brood War are really good, so that's why I don't really have to deal with like too many mechanical things. I mean, except for I guess maybe macro. But I think more my cycle is slowing back down to make better decisions, and then speeding back up to be faster and more across, like doing more things at once. Right now, I'm definitely in my spin down cycle where I'm playing slower, but I'm trying to think a lot more about my decisions again. But soon I'll speed back up to like where I'm at, probably like 250, 300 APM floating. And try and do more things at once, and that's where I always get like my giant MMR boosts. Like I'll lose a lot because I'm slowing down, but then I'll like when I speed back up because I've built those decisions a little bit more back of my head, not really muscle memory, is when I start seeing the MMR boost back up.
I'm kind of curious, because all of you do play at a higher level than me, if you think that there's validity to the notion that Shamtu kind of talked about, where you do make some kind of concession where you go, okay, I'm not Flash, right? I'm not Flash. So at this point in the game, I'm going to have a little extra. And like I'm paying something by doing the build differently than he did. But do you think there's validity to that, whether it's from a skill gap thing or even a meta thing, right? Like the builds that people are doing to me at Diamond versus GM are different. So I have to kind of account for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that build orders can be a little bit tricky. Like you can't pull off the best build orders because you're not good enough. I'm saying you as a general for everyone listening, because Cyril's probably not listening to this right now. Flash isn't listening to this right now, right? So it's like there's certain things that they can do that no one else in the world can do already. So it's kind of like it pegs down, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think that's one of the biggest things as well, is that like you are not these people. These people are the way that they are. They're at the level that they are at, not because of their build, but because of their ability to read a situation and the ability to adapt. Like Flash has this great TVZ guide for how to do the 5-factory Goliath build that covers maybe 4 different decisions of things that you can like look at and see a Zerg, and he'll be like, oh, if you see this, and you do this. If you see this, you do that. But there's 1,000 different things that Zerg can do that if you're not ready for it with the exact build that he gives you, you're dead. So that's why like I have to put those concessions in, because like I can't read a game like Flash can. I can only play like 1,500 dude.
Yeah, and the thing that makes it hard too to like replicate a pro as well, like furthering on that, is you only see one example out of, if you're looking at like a replay, you see like one example of like, okay, he did exactly this, and that gamer who did it might know how to react to every, like so many different situations, but you only see him react to one. So you're always trying to react to every situation that one way. When, for instance, if it's something as simple as like push and pull, you might have needed to like pull army back at a certain point, but you're pushing and you're like, oh, he did it and I did it, but mine didn't work. So maybe I just messed up somewhere. But in reality, like your opponent might have done something totally different than what he faced in his game. So it's hard to break that down. And like really trying to like understand movements of army, I guess, is maybe also like one of the big things to look for when you like actually look at a replay to like understand movements, and units change that too, which makes it even more complicated. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Comes from experience, I guess.
I think this is where maybe coaching is super valuable, right? Because, you know, I can be looking at, you know, some stats replay where he like exactly holds some push with like the barest minimum number of units or whatever. But I don't know, did I get this wrong because I didn't have the right units in the right positions in the right composition? Or did I not do it because I can't control an army as smartly as stats can control an army, right? And without somebody who's better than me to look at that and go, oh, here's what you did wrong, you're kind of just, you know, floating with no guidance and just confused.
One of the examples of this that I actually just realized about yesterday when I was rewatching, I think SC Brood War casts or whatever, did a version of the TVZ5 Goliath build, and they talk about building 3 vultures, and you go in at this time. And the Flash video, he talks about the same exact thing, and he's like, so we just built, and Flash says, oh, we built 3 vultures, we jump into the natural, and we snipe a bunch of drones, and we just make the Zerg scared. But that's not actually what Flash is doing. What Flash is doing is he's getting in there and he's seeing if the larvae are being saved up, because that shows if it's hydras or if it's mutas, and then you can make your decisions off that. And that was explained in another video from another pro, and I was like, oh, okay. That one replay, Flash didn't explain that one giant crucial part of like in material.
Yeah. That happens more often than I'd like to admit.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking about strategy, again, for looking towards newer players, do you guys think that there is a certain type of strategy or play style that is going to be better for newer players to learn? Like, should people start aggressive? Should they start macro? Should they start defensive? What do you guys think on that?
I think so many thoughts.
Yeah, I think new players should start defensive, honestly, and they should learn how to. I think they should start to learn how to multitask, like in terms of not break the pattern that they're doing through their developing of their build, but yet at the same time, sometimes they are dealing with some type of aggression and sometimes they aren't. And builds that should be catered to how they play should be builds that are very micro-list, because I think that players who, if they incorporate too many tasks, and aggressive is being one of them, it takes longer for them to actually develop solid macro. Like they just struggle longer. I
disagree.
Okay.
I think, well, okay, so so this is a little bit of a caveat. I think for StarCraft 2, it is actually smarter to play macro and slower. But I think in Brood War, it's better to play aggressive, like opening up 2 Racks Academy before expand, or like 2 gates, you know, PVZ and all this like other stuff, because I think in Brood War it is way harder to macro for a long period of time, and no player is going to be able to do that at like the beginning level. And I think also playing aggressive in Brood War, you learn how units interact with each other a lot quicker. And I think you also learn what battles you can and can't take. And you learn kind of like you learn a lot more about like the mortality of units in Brood War if you play aggressive. I think in StarCraft 2, it does make sense to play more defensively, but most Brood War people that I teach, that I like try to like get them past like, you know, the beginning couple hundred MMR, etc. I tell them, play 2 Rex, play 2 Fact, play all these builds, because you as a player cannot handle 9 pool speed by doing like 2 Marines into like a command center.
I agree with you. For Brood War, that totally makes a lot of sense. And in StarCraft 2, there's so many like assist features, like auto mining. You just rally to a base, you just like hold down worker button, and they just keep going and mining. And for me, it kind of falls back into for StarCraft 2, it falls back into the realm of a proper game or not. And if someone actually plays a build where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make Marines and Medivacs, and then I'm going to attack. And if they're like, you know, Gold League, and they're actually trying to like do a timing, and then their supply, if you look at it like up to a proper build, it's supposed to be maybe 60 supply, and they have 32. And they're like, this is so hard. Like, I cannot kill this guy with, like, this is just not enough. This build sucks. And you're like, well, you just didn't macro, though, because you're focusing everything on the attack, and you're not actually macroing at all. So I feel like that it confuses people in StarCraft 2 for like actually teaching them the power of a unit, more or less.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the timing thing especially. I think it can be valuable as a tool for teaching macro, because if you tell a newer player, look, it's possible for you to have X, Y, and Z in your composition, move across the map and hit at such and such a time. If, one, you don't get horribly messed up by your opponent in the early game and you macro properly. That is an interesting tool for macro. The other piece that I think is worth talking about here is that when you're doing a more proactive strategy, the length of the game is shorter. So you can get more iterations in on the thing that you're trying to do, meaning you can see more mistakes that you hit and try to correct those. It's a little bit more difficult if you say, I'm going to go super late game, I'm going to max out every game, 3-3, whatever. There's a lot of weird stuff that can happen once you make the possibility space that big. But I don't think you should just go, oh, okay, cool, I'm going to proxy oracles right beside my opponent's base every game and just kill them. Because, yeah, sure, you'll get to Gold League or whatever, but then you're hard stuck and you don't know why.
I actually wanted to say something about what you just said too, about the longer the replay or the longer the game, the harder it is to realize where you went wrong. I actually developed a method for people to figure that out easier, I feel like. And it seems super basic, and I just tried it once and it seemed to work really well for people. What I do is I actually tell people to write down in a notepad or something. You just do 1 minute or 0 to 1 minute, 2 minutes. You break down each minute basically one by one by one by one by one, all the way to 10 minutes. And then you write down your worker supply and you write down your total supply next to it every time for your build and the build you're trying to compare to. And then if you actually stay on par for the first 4 minutes and you're like, oh, well, I'm doing good. And now I can actually figure out where I went wrong at 5 minutes. Everything beyond that kind of becomes irrelevant. You need to focus on 5 minutes, and there is your problem. And you just focus heavily on that part.
So if someone wants to take this $1 million idea, by $1 million, I mean probably $0 at all, and you'll just have to spend hosting fees. I've always wanted to build a MOBA build format website that does StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 builds with a time of a pros build or a very good build, good players build, time, supply, and as many measurements as you possibly can get at once, except try to limit it down to very simple things. Because the cool thing about a lot of games like League of Legends and Dota is they have this formula figured out for I can load up this website, I can click, I'm playing this character in this position, and they'll be like, all right, here's the things you need to build. Here's the items that you need, here's the rough statistics of what things you take at what time, and here's what here's what your gameplay is going to look like. StarCraft doesn't really have that. We've never built this. You could say Team Liquid, Liquipedia has something like this, but they mostly just do supply and what thing you're building with, 17 asterisks of take 2 SCVs off at this time that you have to read. And you have to go down the bottom of the list and you go find out what that asterisk means. I think if we were to do the exact same thing that you're talking about, where it's you compare yourself to what, a pros build is, it helps people realize where their macro problems are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, when I'm going through my macro iterations of practice, I use spreadsheets and stuff to do what Vibe was saying, basically, where I'm taking SCV counts and unit counts and being like, how does Flash have 4 more Marines than me right now? That's insane. That's that is, so much build time right there. It's a minute. Where did I lose that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you start from the benchmark and you work backwards, right? Oh, okay, I don't have the right units because I supply blocked. Okay, why did I supply block? When do I need to make the the supply building? That kind of thing.
You guys mentioned it just slightly at the very beginning of this conversation, but for newer players, when do you think is the appropriate time to kind of start introducing build orders? Because it's one of those catchphrases where it's oh, what's your build? It's it's not even good lingo at this point. I feel like so many of our words have actually gotten too big in meaning. It's even I do it where I'm yeah, I say build for strategy and build order, right? And it's but when I'm talking about an actual build order where you're okay, on this supply or at this time, or however you like to write your build orders down, when should a new player actually be looking for these? Because I feel like that is one of the main things. Someone just pops in hey, I'm new, can you give me a Zerg build order? I'm well, I mean, that's a very big question.
Yeah, right.
It's tricky because they'll do the thing that Vibe said earlier, where you give them a build and they really just have a composition, and like sure they'll get Lingbane Hydra, but not the way you meant,
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, if you get into like, okay, you do this and then you pull a worker off of gas and you go over here, like that's too much if you're in Bronze League. So it's kind of fuzzy.
I think Masters, honestly, because I think the way I kind of look at StarCraft is Bronze to Plat. For StarCraft 2 again, Bronze to Plat is like all the same thing. I think that Plat just does everything that Bronze does better. And I know a lot of Plat players would be like, I'm not Bronze, dude. What are you talking about? I'm not Bronze. But I think they're all kind of in the same category. Like they all just they're learning the game. They're learning how to refine the basics. And then Plats just do it better. And then Diamond, I think, is like you're starting to learn how to refine the advanced stuff. And even in Diamond, I think with the overwhelming amounts of just refining you're doing just by there's everything at once. It's like you're the guy going to play Dota for the first time and you're like, there's like 100 heroes and I don't know all of them do yet. Like I got to really figure everything out, and you just need to like again refine it. Once you get to Masters, I think you have enough actual like experience to not think so heavily about what you're doing and think more about what your opponent's doing, and then you can actually muscle memory do a build properly. That's kind of how I see it going.
Oh, okay. So you're kind of pointing towards maybe Masters League is a good place to really start focusing on build orders?
Yeah, because I think if you actually focus, like if you have to dedicate too much of your attention to your own build order, if that's actually like taking all of your mental power, you're not going to focus on anything your opponent's doing, and you might not make a different like a deviation somewhere where you should have, because you're like, well, I did the build and it failed, but like it's like you didn't scout that though, and that's really important. So muscle memory, like I feel like it starts happening in Masters, and that's when I think builds make sense, is when you don't have to think about it and you can actually do the build while thinking about your opponent.
It's funny. There was this long period where I was playing StarCraft 2 in the very beginning, and it was kind of like the Wild West. Everything kind of, everybody just did random things back in Wings of Liberty.
Yeah.
And I was still kind of learning how StarCraft really worked. I had played Brood War for about a year beforehand, but it was still like, I wasn't that great at it. I had gone from basically being a Command and Conquer Generals person to a Brood War person. And I was learning how to SCV scout in Brood War, but then when I got into StarCraft 2, there was this like really long period where at the beginning, I sent my SCV out to go scout, and I just kept doing it, but I didn't actually take in any information until someone called me out on it once. They're like, you send your SCV out to scout, but you don't actually pay attention to it. Why do you do that? And I'm like, well, you gotta scout. It's 12 supply. You gotta scout. That's what you gotta do. You gotta do. Scout.
Build order says you do.
And they're like, it's the build order says scout. It's just like, it's exactly one of those moments where you're just like, you're doing this thing, but you don't know why you're doing it. You just need to focus not on the build. You need to focus on what you're doing and what your opponent is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Eric, you have any thoughts on starting build orders?
I feel that it benefited me a lot, again, to have that benchmark target, right? Where, I go, okay, I'm gonna do this 2 base all in. I'm gonna hit him at such and such minutes. I'm gonna have these units. That said, I do think that you can derail a little bit with that, because there are weird deviations. There are a lot of these things there. The notion that you get too caught up in your own head about, okay, I got to make this pylon at 44 or whatever, like making a bunch of worse decisions faster is totally valid. Like probably at all levels of StarCraft, but certainly when you're new, right? Like I know for a fact I've streamed ladder games where like I wasn't making particularly great decisions, but I made a heck of a lot of them way faster than my opponent. And it's like suddenly things, it doesn't matter if the things are in, a good composition or particularly well placed on the map or controlled well. There's just a lot of stuff in a lot of places and my opponent kind of falls over. So I don't know. It might be one of those things where you can kind of pick your poison. If you're learning, right, you can, if you want to do the build order thing, cool. If you want to just like try to max out as quick as you can and move them, cool.
I got a little bit more elaboration now that from the point you just brought up, Aaron. I think actually if you play aggressive, maybe build orders apply a little bit earlier because you actually get benchmarks to aim for. But if you play defensive, I don't think build order applies as much defensive, because usually what I just teach people early on is like, just do everything as efficiently as you can, and then when you max, we scout and we go kill, basically.
Yeah.
that's just open-ended. It's basically just teaching people what actual macro is, because I think the biggest misconception of macro that every single low-level player has is, oh, my money's low, dude, I'm macroing. And it's like, that's not only what it is. You got to generate that money too. You can't just have fucking no workers. You're like, I spent my money, dude.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that I didn't realize for a long time is that, people think, oh, macro is economy, but it can be other stuff too, right? So for me, I did almost no multitasking at all up to probably like high plat, meaning I was getting no information on what my opponent did. So if they, for example, play like a really greedy, like take a lot of bases, Terran mech style, I don't know, man. I wasn't supposed to attack them yet. I'm not maxed, right? So I've been starting to kind of conceptualize that information gathering as like a piece of my macro cycle, where it's like, hey, chrono the stuff, start your upgrades, do warp and cycle, whatever, and then go do something out on the map. That needs to kind of be rolled in.
I love these points you guys are making. Like, you definitely all have thought about this far more than me. It makes a lot of sense, everything that's coming out here. I'm just like, yeah, damn, I'm doing a disservice to noobs when they ask me questions all the time.
Make workers, man.
Yeah, like, you just need more SCVs, dude. Like, come on, like, go watch a flash VOD and copy that.
Well, so that's actually like where a lot of this like thinking kind of stemmed from, is that everybody just kept saying, go watch a flash VOD. And that's when I started realizing that, like, we have this new cycle of players coming in because of CPL. We have a new bunch of tier 3s who have no idea what the hell is going on. And everybody in all of these discords who are English speaking are just like, well, let's go watch a flash VOD, man. Let's just go watch a flash VOD. Go do the flash VOD. Flash VOD. Have you been to Jin Jin's channel? This is going to really help you out. And I'm like watching these players and I'm like, they can't even, it's not even a question of like even knowing what Flash is doing, because Christ, I watch Flash's VODs and I have no idea what the hell he's doing half the time. I have to put it down to like half speed to be like, oh, he just put down 2 armories.
Yeah. Okay, so same type of question here. When and where, because that's another thing that I've seen so many times, is people talking about APM way lower than I feel like they should. Where is APM actually a consideration? Is this something that you guys try to tell people you're teaching to avoid, or maybe like focus on less or focus on more? I don't know. I'm surprised with some of the answers. So what do you guys think about APM for new players?
Super hot take. You should not spam at all. You should never be caring about this.
I actually disagree with that.
I disagree with that as well.
Come at me.
The reason why I disagree with it is because I think muscle memory is something you need to spam. And I think muscle memory is something that should be automated. And if you have to actually, if you're taking time to go, I need to build a worker. If you're trying to build a worker every time a worker is like ready to be built, you're trying to also incorporate timing in your build now as well. And that doesn't need to happen when it's just automated. So I feel like if you're just like, something that my chat made kind of a meme out of was 5SD, 5SD, 5SD for like hatchery, select larva, drone.
Mm-hmm.
So you just like literally spam. And the more tasks you can get done just that are automated and you don't have to think about, the faster you're going to play. And you're not even going to be trying to play fast, where it's like, I'm going to make like 10 control groups and I'm just going to hit all the numbers as fast as I can to get 1,000 APM. You're actually just like spamming the commands you need to do. And you're like, if you do it 6 times in a row, but only one of those 6 times actually makes the drone, you're actually limiting the amount of time you're missing it to very low, and you're maximizing like your everything, like your production of your build. Everything's flowing really well, and it's something you're not even thinking about because you're just doing it while you're looking at like something else, basically, like you're scouting with an overlord or anything with any race, really.
Yeah. So I think I agree with the destination, and I think I have different opinions about how to get there, but super duper agree with what you said, Vibe, on the notion of offloading those sort of, menial tasks almost to muscle memory, so that there's not like a cognitive process being burned up by it.
Chimpsy, what were you going to say about it?
I think if you work on it for like a week, you get past the whole entire burning brain cycles on it. I think honestly, like just spamming APM, it's really not hard. You have to do it smart. And in Brood War, I learned, moving back to Brood War after StarCraft 2, you have to be really careful about spamming things, because if you spam move command on like vultures going up a ramp, you actually do a disservice to yourself.
Yeah.
Because vultures will glitch out and they'll like constantly have to reposition and figure themselves out. Whereas if you just click move up ramp once, they actually do it way better. But I think honestly, just doing this the control group cycles where you just like 5 4 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1. Well, I'm left-handed, so I have my right hand doing it. But like, you know, if you're 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 5, if you're just sitting there like doing that a lot and you're like constantly seeing the selections go through and you see, oh, my macro cycle is missing white dots, or you know, I'm missing, you know, production on these things, or oh, I just lost like 6 Marines to something or something like that. You know, like if you're constantly just cycling through those groups, that's a great thing for a new player to have. Because I mean, as Vibe said, if even like one of those times that you notice something happened, you're gonna probably be able to react better, or you have a higher chance of something going better for you than if you're trying to just think slowly and click only when it's effective.
Yeah. And I feel like even more, I feel like it helps. I can imagine with Brood War, where like, let's say you have, I don't know, like 6 control groups. So you're like 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A. Like you're getting a lot faster at actually manipulating the keyboard without actually like putting too much time into doing it. And in StarCraft 2, it's not as elaborate as Brood War because you have way bigger control groups. But like if you have a very diverse army, it feels more comfortable to like control like 4 control groups of units or something like that, where you're actually just, your fingers are used to like just flowing over the keyboard and you're not just going forward S, 5A, or just, you know, like just taking your time doing it when it needs to be done. So I feel like it helps you with just like operating the keyboard, I guess more like gradually, like it flows better is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the notion that you need to be able to transition quickly from a desire to do something in the game to your hand pushing the buttons that make that thing happen. Like it needs to basically be instant. A really good resource, I said this in the chat, but if anybody's, you know, like listening to this in audio only form on a bot or whatever, The Inner Game of Tennis is a really good book on the subject. Whatever about, you know, tennis being in the title, it talks about this notion of how to offload things to the center of your brain that is not conscious, so that those actions do just kind of like flow out of you. Another interesting thing here, my thoughts on this might not apply to other people because I type really, really fast. I work in software as like a day job thing, just like Sham too. So my hands are already quick, but I have to kind of get them to be quick at StarCraft actions as well. So problem than maybe some people are solving who don't naturally type fast, who are picking up StarCraft.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too, is that especially if you're a person who types a lot, you're going to be a lot more comfortable on the keyboard. Yeah, that's definitely another big thing I think I've noticed with StarCraft players, is that they're also, there's a lot of people out there in the world who are not comfortable at a keyboard.
Yeah.
As us, you know, players who play a lot, and you know, just people who generally are on a keyboard all day.
It's kind of funny. It works both ways, right? Like StarCraft players aggressively attack user interfaces in a way that normal people do not, which is kind of funny to watch.
Also, mouse accuracy. I think that's another big thing that on the subject of like spamming APM. Like just one of the spam things that I do in the beginning of games is, even though it's pure spam, is I will just left click on SEVs while they're going back and forth between the mineral fields, just to like get that little bit of training of like practice accuracy.
That's really good. No, I do that all the time too. And I think that there's so many people that will ask as well. They're like, why do you spam click your thing so much? Like, I don't understand why you're doing that. It serves no purpose. But when you're doing things where like, especially if you're like, you're moving around screen to screen to screen, and you're using units as well that are maybe really fast, like a StarCraft 2 example could be Ling Bane versus Ling Bane. You can actually, if you're just really used to the mouse momentum and like accuracy with it, you can like click a Bane really fast and move on, and you're not trying to like click the area or you're misclicking all the time. Like the mouse feels more like second nature to you at that point, when you know, give yourself like constant just like training of it when nothing's going on.
Yep.
Along these lines, I wonder if anybody has experiences with creating situations in games that specifically help you drill something that you are trying to get closer to, that like desire translates directly into action thing. So quick example, I get coaching from a couple of different Protosses, but one of them is Printf. And he had me doing that like double robo proxy cheese thing to Zergs. I'm sorry, Zergs out there, don't hate me. But a weird side effect of that is that my prism control is now like abnormally good for my level. And it'll help me in PvTs. It will help me in PvPs. I just kind of naturally have that sort of fluency to pick up and drop things out of a prism that I never had before. And I think that's a really interesting tool, but maybe a little bit hard to leverage because that's like super specific, right? I couldn't necessarily do that same thing with like Adepts or Stalkers and like force every single game to look in a certain way where I'm going to get a lot of practice with controlling that specific kind of unit. Anybody else have experiences like that at all?
That sounds a lot like deliberate practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're kind of setting yourself up. And I definitely like when I was first, trying to get really good, like 20 years ago, I was sometimes people would put me through drills like that, where like I just have like 5 groups of units on the map, and so top right, and I'd have to attack move there as quickly as possible, or bottom right, attack move there. And that type of stuff, I found very, very helpful. And I still try to think of things like that to incorporate in. It's a little bit harder to think of now that I kind of know how to do everything. But yeah, I think deliberate practice is a really good concept.
Yeah, I have been yelled at many, many times by Brood War people that I need to like save. I don't know. I think you can do it in StarCraft 2 now. Save state right before 200 TVP engagement and just play that out like 30 times. I haven't done it because I refuse to want to do that fight 30 times in a row. Yeah. But that is a thing that a lot of people have promoted in the Brood War community as like, this is a great way for you to learn how to do this thing, is just do it 30 times in a row.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Like you can definitely, if you're the kind of guy who just plays, like a game and whatever happens in the game just happens, or you're a guy who just forces one situation to happen repeatedly, you'll definitely see improvement faster from that one situation, especially if it's something that commonly happens in ladder. Like my experience was actually QXC was like, hey, let me bunker proxy you in Wings of Liberty, like over and over and over. And he did it for like 6 hours. I just got bunker proxied again and again and again. And then eventually I was like, maybe at first it's like I might have like a very low defense rate, like a 25% rate at it, but suddenly it starts turning like 50-50, because not only is he getting better at doing it while he's doing it, but I'm also getting better at defending it. So then the better we both get as well, it makes the situation even harder. So it makes, when you actually do it to somebody who's not as good as that, you just crush them really easily. So it definitely has a lot of merit to it for sure.
However, you also run into the exact the selective bias scenario where you always keep crushing people in this one push or this one thing, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna go win the game now. And then you don't, and you're like, what do I do? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't teach new players to do an FD in Brood War, because they always are like, well, I just win with FD. That's why I do FD. It's like, no, that's not why you do FD. That's the exact opposite objective of FD, is to win the game.
Yeah, if I ever get all the way to their Nexus with that, I actually start fucking up. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be this far out with them.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid caution, especially for newer players. You can totally do this like laser targeting of your practice, but you have to be very mindful that you're doing it to something that is important. So, if you've identified, oh gosh, I just watched 20 of my own replays and the broad strokes, biggest flaw in my play is such and such. Yeah, it might totally make sense to laser target that. But if you either get the wrong idea or have no idea about what that is, well, okay, now you're practicing a scenario that you don't even hit that much. Like, do you really need to be that good at defending cannon rushes just because you were upset you lost to one once in Bronze League? So you just have to be kind of mindful about it, I think.
Well, that's actually a kind of a good question here, because Vibe, you already mentioned writing out minute by minute what's going on in the game to kind of find out if you don't, if you're not the highest level player. What are some other ways that the newer players can kind of look at their plays or look at their replays and identify what's going wrong?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I keep going first all the time. You go.
I'll tell you the exact opposite way to look at your replays, which is don't look at your replay and be like, everything I've done is bad. One way that I was taught was look for your first mistake and then note that and go forward. I would say look for your first 3 mistakes, because probably your first mistake isn't actually your first mistake, because you're new and you don't realize what your first mistake was. So I would look for just like 3 things that you can just kind of generally work on as a broad stroke. Like, oh, I missed this timing, I missed that timing, and then I messed up this micro. But also don't look at your replay and say, everything I did is wrong, because if you constantly look at yourself as like, everything I did is wrong, everything is bad, like you get into the elephant problem where you're just like, you've just made just such a large problem for yourself to deal with that you don't even know where to tackle it, right? So just look for very simple things if you want to look for simple things. If you want to just go fix one thing like your build, easy. If you want to go fix bigger things like how you think about the game, easy. Just look at your replay, look for that one thing that you're looking to do that day.
Yeah, the other piece of this too is like the most efficient thing you can do for your practice is not make yourself so depressed that you don't want to practice, right? I kind of brought up earlier the notion of, you won and you're on this high, you're like, oh, cool, I did the thing. And then you go look for a mistake. I also think that you should do the opposite of that, where, you just got wrecked in a game and you're bumming about that, but you can go find that one thing where you're like, I was trying to work on this and improve this, and I actually did it right this game. Even though I lose 4 minutes later, you can kind of keep yourself like, I don't know, give yourself a little pep talk about the things that you did right in a game too.
Yeah. For me too, I would say one thing you can definitely do to make sure you're not going to get stuck, or you're going to definitely improve faster, would be give yourself refreshers as to like a build or like something that's what you're trying to mimic or emulate to a point. Like it could be efficiency, it could literally be a build order. Just don't let it get the build get distorted so much from yourself, the way you're breaking it down every time, because I've done it myself before where I'm like, I'm gonna, like back in like 2012 or something, I'll be like, I like that NST build, I'm gonna do it. And then suddenly I'm like, why does my build suck now? And oh, okay, his gas is way different than mine and I need to fix that again. And it just gets distorted over time. So giving yourself like checkups to make sure you're not just doing it horribly, basically.
Yeah, I just mentioned this before. I was just like, I make the monstrosity out of what God had given me.
Yeah.
Really quickly, somebody in the chat is calling out Maynard's focus goal stream idea, which I'm a huge advocate of. I stole that from him shamelessly. That's just kind of that format where you say, today I'm going to sit down for a ladder session and my goal is X thing, right? I'm going to not supply block at 44 because I always do that. I think that is a really, really, really good way for newer players to target their practice, feel good, not get so invested on the win and loss, and get themselves into that mindset where like they want to practice, which again, like the best thing that you can do for yourself is play more games, right? So anything that keeps that rolling, I think is good.
Actually, you just touched on a really great spot too, which is just play more games. One thing I struggled with for a really long time was I wasn't playing enough games to, I guess the best way to really put this is like smooth out the median. When you're playing a small amount of games, every loss feels way more impactful.
Yeah.
Than if you play a lot of games and you have to remember that you're playing poker. You're not aiming to win 100% of your games, but if you play only a few small amount of games at a time, you will feel like you have to. And what I try to say is aim for the 50%. Like don't aim for 50% over a night. Aim for like a week. Like you're gonna have your bad nights, you're gonna have your good nights, etc. You gotta keep playing. You gotta play a lot so that you make that the ups and downs of your graph start to kind of mellow out a little bit more, and that they start to kind of like simmer down on some percentage. And anybody who's always like, you know, I get drained because I lose a lot and all that kind of stuff. I understand that. I'm a very emotional player. I get so invested. My girlfriend has told me this is apparently called a type A personality. Very invested and competitive, and like you gotta just there's ways you can work around it, but I've found that just playing a lot really helps.
Yeah, volume is huge, and the thing that I like about the Maynard trick, the focus goal thing, is like you can fudge that so that you get a greater than 50% success, right? Not
Yeah.
game win, but success. Where, you know, maybe I'm working on supply blocks. I can pick a supply block goal that I'm going to beat like 70% of the time. That feels a hell of a lot good than just, or a hell of a lot better than just laddering, where, you know, sure, I'm still losing 50% of my games, but I'm lying to myself and saying that I'm winning 70% of them. So I feel good and want to keep queuing.
Actually, this is to kind of show how disconnected I am with helping like the newer players. I didn't even think of any mindset type questions to ask you guys, but Era, you've been bringing that up, that you're working on that a lot. So I'd love to just hear from you guys what you think about mindsets of newer players. I just kind of like, I guess I assume because newer players are so fucking bad that they wouldn't be afraid to ladder, and they would expect to lose every game, and of course wouldn't. You know, if I go and play water polo, I've never played water polo. I'm going to lose, so I wouldn't have any ego about that. But yeah, I guess I'm being ignorant. So, what are some mindset things for newer players here?
I think volume is huge, like you guys are saying, because the smaller sample size of games that you play. Let's say you do really well in your smaller sample size, and you're like, I won 80% of my games. I don't want to ruin that. I want to maintain that. And then if you lose, that loss is that much more aggravating. It means so much more because you're like, I've conditioned myself to winning now, even though it's only been 10 games.
Yeah.
So just like, don't care about a win or a loss. Just only care about the fact that if you don't play, you're not going to get better.
Yep.
So if you just keep playing, you will always be better than you were before. And winning and losing doesn't matter, because if you just play, you'll always beat better opponents than you could otherwise if you don't play.
Yeah, that's a good point. People should remember that, like, unless you get to the very top of the ladder or the very bottom of the ladder, everyone averages out over time at 50% win rates.
Yeah.
So it's like Flash and Cyril. Yeah, they have greater than 50% and always will.
Mm-hmm.
But below that, basically the top few, it's going to go the other way. But yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, and you know, the before StarCraft 2 came out, the beta and all that stuff, when I started playing then, I was playing on IC Cup, and I was learning from my friend Pylon, who was one of the people who started up CPL. Anyway, he was like a C- Zerg at the time, and I had just started playing Brood War. I played for 3 months. 3 months of playing him almost daily, multiple times a day, before I could get to 9 minutes. You're going to lose a lot. It's going to suck. And that's the worst part, I think, is that I don't think StarCraft right now, especially not remastered, has a good solution to making a new player feel good. Because you start off at 1500 MMR. I'm at 1500 MMR. And I play at like 200 APM and I know builds.
Yeah.
What are you going to do except for maybe 10-10 gate in the middle of the map? Because that's just a toss-up for me now. But like there's you know, like it's so ridiculous to get into the game and expect to win, but also at the same time, the amount that companies have found out that someone getting a win in the first 2 games leads to them logging on the next day is like a ridiculously high ratio. They're like, if someone wins in the first 2 games, they're going to log in tomorrow. But if they lose those first 2 games, they're probably not going to log in tomorrow.
That makes me sad in a lot of ways.
There definitely is some psychological thing where you're like, oh, I'm good at this. Cool. I'm going to do it more, right? Like you want to feel like you have mastery or whatever. I do think, to your original prompt, Artosis, I do think that there is something to it. I actually don't think it's the majority of players. I think the majority of players need to go watch YouTube content by Sham2 that's going to be like, here's how you do the stuff. Hey, I watch your, I see that face you're making, Sham2. I watch your stuff. It's really well edited.
Thank you.
But you know, the vast majority of players probably just need that. Here's the roadmap. Here's how you play well. I do think that there is a subset of people, because I used to belong to this subset, that are highly engaged with StarCraft, really like it, only watch it as a spectator sport and played campaign because they're afraid. And what I think is really interesting about that subset is that they stand the most to benefit from playing. So this thing that we're talking about where, you know, you win and lose about 50% unless you're Cyril, right? What that means is we have a very, very good tool for inducing that exact kind of anxiety that people struggle with, right? Where it's like, oh God, I don't want to hit ladder because if I hit ladder, I might lose. And if I lose, I'll feel bad. Well, okay, like here's a magic button that lets you practice the thing that you're struggling with. And I don't mean StarCraft. I mean the internal struggle of being scared of like stuff in your life, right? So that is what kind of gets me fired up about this, is like just leveraging that tool for self-improvement in a very like general, holistic way.
Okay. Any other thoughts on mindset, guys, for the newer people?
I guess I could tell a quick story about how mine changed. I tell a story in my stream sometimes. Basically, in Warcraft 3, when I first started actually being able to attain a good record in ladder, there was like, I think the patch was like, it was called like 1.14, doesn't really matter, but the records reset, and I ended up getting a record that was like, it was like 95 wins to like 10 losses, and then I would slowly play. I was playing like 10 or 15 games a day at first, and then I would play like 2 games a week. After that, like, I don't want to lose. I want to keep it. I don't want to let it go away. And eventually, it got to a point where I just stopped entirely, and I still maintained like the percentage of win rate went down slowly every time I kept playing more games. So I just stopped doing it at like 88%. I was like, that's where I'm stopping. And then I just didn't play anymore 1v1. And somebody challenged me to a 1v1 that had like it was like a 56% win rate, but he had like 2,000 games played. And I was like, I'm gonna just destroy this guy. Like, this isn't gonna be hard. Like, sure, let's go. Why not? Let's do it. And then he destroyed me, and I was like, oh my God, I suck. Like, I don't understand what's happening right now, but I guess it's maybe because I haven't played 1v1 for the last like month, and I'm just way worse than I think I am. So getting in your own head, thinking that like, you know, you want to maintain like a good record, or like if you ever achieve something one time and that's what you hold yourself to as a standard from now on, it's such like a wrong thing to do. It like makes your mindset really toxic, because you focus on, you know, what like the, you know, like things that aren't really real. Like you just focus on like one good run and that's it. And everybody has good runs every now and again. So just playing the game, you know, like, again, the volume thing we talked about earlier, it kind of deletes that mindset, and you just play and you play and you play and you always get better no matter what. It's a guaranteed method.
Yeah, you know, people complain for a long time for MMR to be shown, and I think that MMR, if you look at it in the correct way, can be a useful metric. But honestly, like I think that people do get obsessed, kind of like what you said, where it's like you can ladder up and get like some MMR high. You're like, well, you know, now I'm this MMR,
I'm
and like
masters
you
now,
don't play that account anymore. Yeah, but whatever MMR you have, like you'll peak and you'll fall low. It's like really people are a range. No one is a number except for Cyril, who's like 7,200, right? Again, it's like at the very top you can figure out like, yes, I am a 7,300 MMR player. Okay, Cyril, yes you are. Yeah. But for everyone else, it might be a range of 200, 300 points that like, yeah, some days or some strategies or some matchups you hit and you go lower or you go higher.
You were masters that day, or you were masters because you hit a string of your good matchup, right?
Yeah,
like there's any number of things like that.
And then
some days I played during the Korean hours, and some day I played during the NA hours, and my MMR can go wildly different numbers.
And oh wait, what was another brain fart? Hold on one second.
I like that. I really like that quote, and someone pointed it out in Twitch chat too, is that people are a range. I really like that.
Yeah. God, why can't I remember? I gotta let it go. I gotta let it go.
Yes, you have to give up on it.
Oh, okay. Yes, there it is. Look at that. Okay, so like I think another thing that can be hard for players is that once you really like something like StarCraft, you associate your your worth with it to some degree, which can make it really difficult to hit that ladder button. That's always been something. It's like being good or bad at StarCraft doesn't actually say anything about how smart you are or how good you are at things or how hard you work or anything like that. It doesn't, like because it's a very strange thing. Like everyone that I meet in person, like if I go to a home story cup or something, everyone's super cool and nice, and they'll come up, they'll be like, oh yeah, no, I'm not any good. Everyone says that to me. And I'm like, dude, I played over 20 years. I'm not any fucking good. Okay. Like, it's fine. All of us are bad, and that's fine. It doesn't actually say anything about us as people. So I feel like if people could keep that in mind, it would be much easier to practice and be fine with everything.
I think that actually is one of the reasons why I didn't make content for StarCraft Brood War for so long, is because a lot of people are not only negative on themselves, but they're also negative on other people. And you need to just kind of like shrug that away. You need to be like, I'm pretty good at StarCraft Brood War. I mean, I'm not, but you know, like you gotta, you gotta shrug that away, especially because when it comes to training content, when I was talking about it originally, a lot of people were like, yeah, but you're not good at the game. So what would you possibly be able to teach people? And I'm like, I found it. I found the spot that I can teach people how to move SCVs. And then all the pros were like, hey, that was a really good video. And I was like, y'all were telling me I couldn't make any tutorial stuff because I'm bad. Everybody's bad. You just got to figure out like what, you know, where your worth is, basically.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true.
So here's kind of a general question, which I've ended up asking a lot of times on this show. Now, all three of you are actually like doing good work for StarCraft and like making new content for newer players to help people get into the game. But what else should be made? Because I'm hoping that people are going to see this and be like, oh, I can, maybe I'm not the highest level player or something, but I'd like to make some of this content to try to help newer players get in, because that seems to be the hardest thing for StarCraft, is getting those new players. So because obviously you guys are all making really good stuff. That's why you're on the show here. But what is some stuff that should be made? Because obviously, like, even three people can't do it all alone. Like, what content do you think would really be helpful for people to get those new players involved?
I have a little bit of a pet thing, not as much on the content side, although kind of. So there are a lot of developers who play StarCraft, a lot of developers. And I had an idea that I haven't had time to fully explore for a thing that parses replays to quantify the downtime on a given structure. So like imagine I can take a replay after I finish the game and just feed in that to like a little app that'll say, hey, by the way, your robo was not doing anything for 13 seconds that game, right? And if it could do that, now all of a sudden I could do the Maynard thing and be like, okay, my goal is to have my robo active or have like fewer than 20 seconds of downtime for my whole PVZ, right? Because I just want to be make immortals. That isn't data that we can generate right now. And I don't actually think that's hard. That's like a weekend project for somebody. So I think something like that would be really, really cool.
That's a great idea. I love that idea. That would be like so useful. You'd be like, why does Zest have 2 more immortals than me? Well, your robo wasn't building for a long time.
Yep.
Oh, that's great.
One thing I saw, I actually coached CDM the Third recently, and he had, I can't remember what it's called, but it's literally like an arcade game. You get in StarCraft and you upload a replay to it somehow. You like input a code. I think you upload it to a website and then you use that code from the website to put back in the arcade game. And it actually has this like this list that pops up on top right, where it has a checklist of every single thing that happens in the game, and you have to like do the checklist as fast as you can. And it's like trying to replicate just like playing faster, basically, and like doing things efficiently. I don't think that's something necessarily that like a bronze player should use necessarily, but it's definitely something that I've never seen before that made it look really clean for like teaching somebody to build. Yeah, it was, and it would even talk to him. It would be like, make a depot, make a refinery, make a barracks. Like it would actually like do it like all the way through. It was. I wish I knew the name of it. I think it's
called Salt.
Is it
Save and Load Tool? I think. It has like gillyweed voiceovers or something, right?
It might, for some reason, I don't know why. I know this is wrong, but my brain is like telling me Lone Star. But I already know it's wrong.
It could be that there's a new version of it. The old Salt tool is really good, but has a couple bugs, and I think the dev like is no longer interested in the scene or something like that. So, but yes, we could absolutely use somebody to like make it, and maybe somebody already has make a version of it that isn't bugged.
Chat just said it, by the way. It's called Overwolf. That's what I was talking about. I just remembered it. It was really cool, actually.
Those both sound amazing. Someone needs to make both those for Brood War as well.
Yeah,
seriously.
Please.
What do you think, Shamtu? What else can be made?
Well, I mean, my original idea, like basically, I guess what spawning pool is for StarCraft 2 for Brood War would be awesome. I just looked at that website. Also, I mean, just more translation videos too, because the Korean players do a lot of tutorial content. I was watching Sorry the other night, probably about a week ago, and he was giving a tutorial on how to do a separate version of Valkyrie micro that's actually more reliable, where he was doing like this almost I don't know how the name sounds, sensitivity wise anymore, but it used to be called the Chinese triangle with mutas, where you'd like bug out Scourge. He was doing kind of like a forward version of that with the Valkyrie, and it would perfectly spin around and go backwards every time while shooting. And
you got to link me to that. Jesus.
I don't know what it was,
amazing.
man. It was in Korean. I don't speak that language. I can say kamsahamnida. That's it.
Damn.
But like that's what I would love, is just like more people who speak Korean and English to just translate videos to like what Jinjin did. Like that stuff is gold.
Yeah.
And then I can steal that content and put it on my videos. Like I'm teaching you.
Like, wow, is Shamtu the best player outside of Korea?
Actually, and then they go and watch my stream and they're like, this guy sucks. Great mechanics, but he's terrible.
Could we actually jump back to the last subject really quickly? So I had this and then I lost it. So we're kind of talking about this, everybody's bad kind of thing, versus the idea of, no, actually, like we all do work pretty hard, like compared to the average human who you sat down, we're pretty good at StarCraft, whatever. A really, really good mindset nugget that I actually got from Neuro is this notion of, if I compliment my opponent, or I assess them as having like being skilled, right, and they beat me, I don't feel as bad. So that's another one of those little like psychological tricks where you can kind of take the sting out of a loss by finding something good that they did, right? Especially if it's a mirror, right? Because Shimty, you laughing at me? Why?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I know this is the exact opposite mindset that Artosis has.
Exactly. I know. I'm sitting here. I'm like, you're saying I have to say something good about this Protoss asshole?
Fair enough.
Please continue, though. Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially if it's a mirror, right? You can look at it and be like, oh, okay, that cool thing they did, I'm going to do to the next person. But no, I think generally it can work, just as a good tricking yourself kind of thing, where you go, oh wow, like they harassed me. That sure was a pain in the ass. And instead of being like, their race is broken, they're an asshole, you go, well, I'm sorry, Tosis, I'm sorry. You instead go, oh wow, they really like found a good spot to get that drop in, or whatever, and it kind of flips it on its head to where you don't feel as bad for it working.
Actually, one of the things that I do realize is that when there's situations where I'm being there's cheesy Protoss things that I like to consider, right? But there is a lot of value in thinking, granted, this strategy doesn't take, this strategy takes like no skill, it takes no like control or anything, and it costs me like 1,000 APM to actually even handle it. I actually took that mindset and started thinking about, how do I drain my opponent's mechanics and micro on the other side, which is like, they're doing a Reaver drop where they just drop a Reaver, they pick it back up. That cost me like 6 APM. It took them like two actions. I'm like, what things can I do on the other side? Is like, this person's skilled. They know that they're draining my mechanics to do this. How do I take that same mindset and apply it to them? And that's often like how I try to think about things too, is that like this person's really good. But on the other side, I think it's also really important to remember that the other person on the other side of the screen is also in your league, and you're matched against them because they're your equal. So also try to remember that they might be really good at this one thing, but they're probably messing up a whole bunch of stuff back then if you're thinking that they're like, really good. Until you go watch a replay and realize that it's some 1200 MMR Korean Smurf and you didn't really have a chance anyway.
That's especially true with people who are doing something like really extreme, right? So if somebody hits you with like some crazy weird cheese and their macro is just incredible, right? Like, yeah, okay, they could be a Smurf, or their macro is dog shit, and all you have to do is make workers and like kind of sort of not die to their Reaper or whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely a mindset thing too. Like you have like the ultra competitive player mindset where you want to not justify anything your opponent does is good, and you're like, he sucks.
Right.
And I lost because of whatever reason, like the game in some way, shape, or form. Like for me, what I used to do all the time on my stream would be like, chat, I read chat and you guys made me lose. Okay, who like, I'm gonna ban somebody. I wouldn't be serious, but I would definitely be like, chat, it's your fault that I lost, and I wouldn't have lost that game if I was focused. But something as simple as like just like over time, like dropping that ultra competitive mindset and doing things like, I wouldn't say I never did this. I usually was good about doing this, but just being like GG when you lose. Something as simple as that, you like validate your losses and you just move on, and it teaches you to like drop it instead of just like rage about it for the next 5 minutes after it's over, being like, yeah, it's just stupid how he can do this and this and this. I got to do this, which is way harder. And then he gets to do that, and it's just stupid. And you just drop it and you move on, and it makes you way less salty, basically, I feel like, when you take it that way.
I feel like I'm in the middle of an intervention right here, by the way.
Dude, I was exactly.
You're not, because as soon as he said like you gotta drop it, I'm just like, no, I don't have to do that. Stupid freaking Protoss gets like 18 different ways to do that to me, and I get what? Drop ships with vultures, and God forbid they have an observer. Guess what? They just win that engagement now too. Yeah, anyway.
No, go ahead, Ira.
I lost it. I need to give up on remembering it.
The real mindset hacks here today.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gone.
That's all right. If it comes up. Any other thoughts on just kind of this whole gigantic topic that we've been talking about, teaching new players and that type of content and stuff?
I think one of the things that I'm missing, and I think what a lot of content creators are missing, and this is not an open invitation to flame, but I think one of the things is there's always, I think, very valid and constructive criticism that people can give on content that's about training people. If you were a new person and something was hard for you to understand, or we lost you at some point, it wasn't anything more than we have a curse of knowledge and you don't. And so if you can give feedback that's like, hey, great video, I got a little bit confused at X, Y, and Z point, that would be really useful to content creators. I used to do a lot of this for Heroes of the Storm stuff, and I realized that there was like a whole bunch of stuff that I could have done a lot better back then, that I'm trying to fix now in my Brood War content. But I only got it from actually interviewing people who like kind of watch my videos. So I would recommend that if you are a new player, you're trying to learn something, and you see a video that doesn't really quite hit what you're looking for, or might have something that would help you out more, please give that feedback.
Yeah, a very similar concept to this is something that I've wanted for a long time, which is sort of a repository of, if you just hit League X, what did you change that makes you feel like you got there? Because I feel like the only people who have this information at all are the GM players who are doing coaching, like selling coaching services. And even then, their sample size is so small compared to the overall player base. It's like trying to improve and get better. Because if we had that, you can start to see the track, right? What does it look like to go from silver to gold, right? What is the most common problem that people have that when they fix it, they promote?
Yeah, and for me, to echo what Shamtu kind of said about the whole being able to take constructive criticism, or like just basically being patient. I've definitely been guilty of before, when someone has a genuine question, like, hey, I don't understand. Why did you not make spine crawlers there? And I'm like, that is the stupidest question. Let me tell you why that's terrible. And I just like take offense to it. I'm like, let me tell you why that's so bad. And then I'm like, well, this person's probably just like genuinely asking.
Yeah.
I'm not insulting my play. So just like relaxing and just, not biting somebody's head off, basically, if they have a genuine question. It's hard to do sometimes, especially after a loss. But
yeah, I was gonna say, don't ask me that when I'm playing live. Ask me that on my YouTube videos. That would be great. Because if you're like, I don't get it, why did you just play mines? I don't know if you're new. I don't know if you're like some like S rank player, and I don't know if you're some E rank trying to be like, wow, this guy's real bad.
Streamer, I think you would have held that push if you had Storm. Why didn't you have Storm for that push?
That's a classic one right there.
Yeah.
If you have Colossus, you should add Storm. If you have Storm, you should add Colossus.
Every time.
100%.
The only other things that I would say is, please, if you are in an area where you think that you are good at teaching something, please make teaching content, because everybody needs more teaching content. Even if you don't know how to video edit, etc., like just more content is always better. 2, if you are going to make content, please stick with it, or like try to come up with something that's sustainable to you. It's not, don't put in 70 hours for one video and be like, all right, well, I guess that's the one video I'm going to make, and then just stop. Make something that's sustainable and easy for you to do. Sorry. And then my third is, wow, I just had it and I lost it. All right, someone else go.
I'll say a thing about the thing you just said. So, yeah, you don't have to be good at video editing. I cut all of Bite-Sized StarCraft 2 literally in OBS. And if I screwed it up, I would record the video again. And as a result of this is all of the videos are like 2 minutes long, because you're not going to cut a 13-minute video where you don't make a mistake, right? So, if you can stream, you can make YouTube content too about a little subject like, hey, here's how you dump 3 workers onto a gas. I mean, I already did that, but like you can do stuff like that, right? And you don't need for it to be perfect. Plus people don't really appreciate going to a YouTube channel and the beginning of every video is like, hey, everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Arat, and today I'm going to teach you about blah, blah, blah. Like, who gives a shit about that? And we don't want you to end the video with, don't forget to like and subscribe. Just like, here's how to do the thing with the workers end. Like, go watch Sham2's thing. It's really like, it's exactly this.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm trying to focus on is because of, okay, I'm going to say things and people might take offense, but I don't really care. I mean, I do care, but so the one problem that I have with a lot of StarCraft and gaming content in general, and this is with actually the feedback that I got from when I did like the interviews with people who watch my content for Heroes of the Storm, is that it wasn't bite-sized. The Day 9 dailies were great. They're a really awesome tool, but they're an hour long. The ones that he did for StarCraft Remastered are like 3 hours long. I don't think it's easy for people to go and digest that information easily. And that's why I tried to take the exact opposite approach. Was I'm going to teach something real quick. Here's 2 minutes, done. And that's the one thing that I'm trying to get done, is just really, really, really bite-sized content.
Yep.
Get in, teach the thing, get out.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to make bite-sized content that's really quality, though, for me at least, because I remember I spent 3 days making a video that was 5 minutes long, editing it, remaking it, setting up situations, doing this, and then I make 3 5-hour-long videos that are all bronze game stuff where I just literally cut out of my stream, and in the stream I'm like, all right, guys, we're doing bronze 2 today, and welcome to the whatever this is, and then we just go into it, and then when it's over, there's our promotion. You just do a little outro, and then you're just done. It's just so much. I
think we need both, but I think that saying, or I guess. I think we need both, I guess is the best way to put it.
Sure.
But I think the what I was trying to approach is that in StarCraft Brood War, we don't have any bite-sized content at all. And that's what I was trying to make.
Do you have an editor, or do you edit it yourself?
I just found out that Adobe, because I just got back into video editing, the Adobe editing suite is like $30, I think, a month, which is kind of expensive, but
sure.
It used to be like $60 a month. So I'm just using Adobe Premiere now.
Nice.
And it makes it way quicker.
Yeah,
for me.
That's what I used to, and I'm not even kidding. I would spend 6 hours on it, be like, how do I want this to look? No, that sucks. I watch it. No, it's actually terrible. Let's just delete it.
I spent a lot of time this first time right now setting it up so that I can copy and paste it for this next section that I'm going to try and make this weekend.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want to set up a way that you do it that is streamlined and fast, so that you aren't constantly reinvesting.
Yeah. Yep. That was my mistake.
The same. I think we've all been there.
Yeah, I don't. Whenever I try to make anything, I just put a bunch of scenes and obs and do it in one go. I can't.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
that's
a really, actually, that was a really cool thing that I learned. I think Day 9 said it. It's just like, just make your broadcast as close to as a video as you possibly can, and just like cut it on both sides.
Yep.
All right. One thing I want to mention for players or people that come to like streams and stuff, or tweet questions or whatever it might be, because this is definitely something I think about. And like most of the time in between a game, in between games on my stream and stuff, that'll be the time that people try to ask questions. And almost every single time, the questions are way too vague. And I think it's really important to just put in as much information as you can into the question, because a good player someone that's experienced is just going to understand the situation. Like it can be like really specific, and you want it really specific, because I actually had a guy that did ask a really specific question a few days ago about specifically when you're supposed to probe cut in PvP or something like that. And I was like, I actually don't know the answer to that one. But thank you for putting all the information, because I don't want to give you a general answer to a more general question that's not going to be correct for you, right? So I think that's an important thing for people to remember. You can be really specific, and people are going to know what you're talking about.
I would add an addendum to that, because this is something that I struggle with junior engineers a lot, is that they'll come to me with like this really complex, specific question, and I'm like, why are you doing any of this? And you have to, like, the way that I always try to teach junior engineers like how to ask questions is start off with, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. Like, start with the top level thing.
What is
I'm
the
trying
goal?
to do Flash's TVZ5 factory Goliath build, and then break it down into, when I get into this part of the game, and I've run into this situation, and then how do I handle this thing? Like, just break it down from the top level down to like that finite grain at the very bottom where you're looking for that specific question. Because holy shit, if I get like, so I have 12 Goliaths and they have 36 mutas, and I'm trying to take my 4th base, like, why is this not working? I'm like, how did you get there? Why are you there? How did we get here?
Cool. All right. Any other thoughts before we go on to the Patreon questions? It's been a very worthwhile conversation, I think. All right, going once, going twice. We do have, by the way, basically Cobra has gotten together a bunch of the playlists that some of you guys have, and a few other people. So you three, Shampoo, I think you need to send yours to him, but we're compiling a list right now of a bunch of the beginner content, BC Cutie, NeuroPig, Winter, and you three guys, and trying to, hopefully we can facilitate people finding some of these good beginner contents out there. And that will all be in the show notes for this week. We're going to link to all of your guys' stuff so that hopefully people can find them a bit more easily.
I did think of one more thing, if we could.
Please.
So in terms of stuff that we need, so this is something I've taken a stab at. I'm not sure how well it's been received. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback on it, but we've talked a lot tonight about beginner players, right? People who have already decided, I'm going to play StarCraft, and now teach me how. Another interesting category for the growth of the game is people who might be into StarCraft if they knew it existed, right? So the brother, sister, significant other, whatever, who, maybe they've had some exposure to you watching a stream or a tournament, but there's not a lot of engagement there. Like, what can we do to get those people to realize how cool StarCraft 1 or 2 is, and why it might be worth their time? Again, I kind of took a stab at that of like, here, let me just explain the game sort of from first principles. But I think that there are probably a lot of different looks that we could have on that particular consumer. And I don't know what they are, but I think it would be a neat thing to put into the group consciousness and kind of see what we come up with.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying here. And it's actually something I thought of a while ago that would be a really interesting thing for people that have two passions that they can link. Like, for instance, I've had friends that try to explain a game to me, and if they're a good StarCraft player and they can put things into StarCraft terms, I understand like so quickly. And you know, there's all sorts of things like that. Like if you're into MMA and StarCraft, I find that there's a lot of people like that right now. You speak two completely different languages, basically, that you can use to get people from StarCraft to like fighting, or people from fighting to like StarCraft, or you know, anything like that. I think that would be some of the very easiest things. If you just make a few parallels there, it can really speed up someone's understanding very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think one of the, I don't know, just like kind of a perspective on it is, if you have like a frontliner, a group of frontliners that are mostly entertaining, I feel like it doesn't always have to be about teaching in a way, but if it's just like someone who is maybe funny, or someone who just keeps it interesting, like I feel like a great correlation to do this with is actually when I introduced a lot of my friends that weren't really into StarCraft 2 to actually GSO, when you and Tastes would cast it all the time, they'd be like, these guys are hilarious. I love watching it just because these guys are so funny. And they would just watch it because they were entertained, literally. And then they, as the entertainment kept them there, like the desire to learn more about the game started to grow from that. So I don't know, like just like maybe keeping like a balance of like trying to maybe keep it a little bit entertaining and interesting, but at the same time definitely keeping it to like, hey, so this is how we're gonna teach you something, like educational plus also comedy. Maybe it's really hard to do that, but yeah, I feel like people with those kind of personalities probably pulling the most, I would say.
Hook them with Ninja Turtle memes, and then the learning will seep in.
There you go, dude.
Excellent. All right. Well, this has been really good chat. Thank you, guys. I think we're gonna go over to the Patreon questions, unless there's anything else. All right. Of course, don't forget, you still have a little bit of time to drop us a Patreon question. If you go ahead and go to patreon.com/ThePylonShow, we're going to go ahead and go through and answer all of these for our supporters. Thank you very much. So here we go. Lightning Lynn asks, do you have any favorite fantasies for StarCraft 3? New units or mechanics, etc.? This is my effort. The metamorphosis of an Ultralisk. Dragonling. Big cocoon, but a tiny creature with 4 wings pops out, like a dragonfly. Fills the role of the Locust in that it flies to the enemy lines and lands. Okay, so basically he's saying, like, is there anything specific you'd like to see in StarCraft 3? And he wants to be able to make the Ultralisk fly and then land on its opponents.
If I gave it a real answer, honestly, I would say I really actually love the hero mechanic from Warcraft 3, and I would love hero mechanics in StarCraft 3. I don't care if you don't like it, dude. It would be so good. Let's make it happen.
Damn. Vibe. You were doing so great on this show.
Dude, I love Warcraft 3, man. Such a good game.
It is a good game. It's the 3rd best RTS. It's a far 3rd.
I just want people to do exactly what this person did, which is just make something that sounds cool. And I think that's like one of those things that happened when they were building StarCraft 1, that they didn't really think about how the unit was supposed to act in esports. They're just like, yo, man, what if there was like this hover bike and it shot out explosive kegs, and you can get an upgrade that puts down a little invisible mine that destroys entire families. Like that's all you needed, and you've built this beautiful unit called the Vulture.
Man, okay. Shimtu has a very compelling argument with the narrative-based thing. I'll try to answer it a different way. I really like cool sort of movement abilities. And I'm trying to think of like what hasn't been done. Maybe an interesting thing would be, so I'm thinking like Protoss stuff because it's my race. Being able to almost like adept shade a unit back in time to where it was like 3 seconds ago or something like that, where, you know, it was unit somewhere I proc an ability and now it goes to like back where it was.
Huh. Cool. for me, like this is a hill that I have died on several times. If StarCraft 3 ever comes out, I hope that they just like nerf the splash damage that we have in StarCraft 2. I just feel like that would be, I think that that's the worst thing in StarCraft 2 is how powerful splash damage is, because it just negates so much shit in the late game and just brings down diversity, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Thanks for the question, Lightning Lin. Nahyun asks, do you think playing the other two races from time to time is a must-do, or should one accept that the other two races just have it so damn easy? That one. How would you go about understanding the limitations or advantages of your opponent's race? What do you guys think about that? That's actually a great question. I should have asked that during the show. Is this something that's like useful for people, is to practice the other races a little bit to kind of get under the hood a bit?
For me, I honestly think that if you play, because this is speaking from personal experience, I think there's a little bit of a difference between reacting to what you see as, like, if I'm a Zerg and I'm reacting to a Terran, then me learning Terran and then doing a Terran build and then perceiving that as now as, you know, what I'm going to be expecting when I'm Zerg. I feel like the amount of time investment it takes to like replicate learning someone else's race and then expecting it is so much longer than just learning what you're seeing and reacting to what you see as the one race. So I think if you have like unlimited time, that'd be fine. But if you're a guy with a schedule and you're like, you have limited 3 hours a day or something like that, then probably stick to one race if you want to get better faster.
I mean, we all have limited time, right? Like, we're not Cyril, so you got to be thinking about what you're doing with your StarCraft hours. And so I do think there's merit to it. If you're a person who likes playing the other races, like, you will get a benefit, but totally agree with Vibe. Like, it isn't a worthwhile investment if the only thing you're trying to do is improve your main race.
Okay. Shamtu, what do you think? Does this apply to Brood War in the same way?
I don't think so.
No?
I think it's actually really useful to play the other races in Brood War. Especially PvT has helped me out a lot with like learning, like, oh man, I don't snipe down obs as many as these other like 1500 MMR Terrans. Now, I've gotten to 1500 as Protoss without spending any effort because Protoss is easy. But, you know, like, it taught me a lot about like, oh, these are things that I really need to be doing to really like abuse Protoss and force them into, like, getting into their mindset allows me to then abuse their mindset when I'm playing on the other side.
Both seem
then it also taught me that Protoss is super easy.
I'm playing some Protoss next week on stream, seeing if I can learn the same thing.
I've been playing Zerg.
Like I suspect.
Zerg is impossible in Brood War, man. I don't know how those
Zerg's
kids
hard.
do it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. That was actually a really good question. Very interesting to hear your guys' point of view on that. All right. Saf Scissors asks, question, how can we raise more awareness for the amount of resources available to new players? And question 2, how important is joining a team or clan to the development of new players? Can you please touch on how new players can join these groups? VFam forever, 5SD, 5SD, 5SD.
Oh, man.
There it is.
The vibes reported right there.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if you have like a group of friends you already know that are playing the game, joining a group maybe isn't the most important thing right away. But if you're kind of just like self-motivated and that's it, maybe finding a group would be a good thing to do, because you could actually like, you know, inspire each other to play more, especially if you like make friends through practicing together. If you're both motivated to improve, or whoever you play with is motivated to improve just like you are. A way to find groups like this, there are automated groups inside StarCraft. If you go to the bottom right, there's like a groups and events tab or something. You can see preset groups that are already there. You can go to streams. Streams are a great resource. Lots of streamers have either like stream clans or they have stream groups that they hang out in often. Like people just from their community do it too. You have Discords you can join that are also an amazing tool to like meet other people that want to play games with you, or you want to play games with as well. What was the other part of the question? What was the first part? Sorry.
Just raising an amount of awareness for the like amount of resources available to new players. Like, how do you raise that awareness? How do you get people to actually watch these really informative videos?
I don't know. Maybe like I don't know. Like, this seems pretty far fetched, But the only thing I can think of that's not already kind of happening is if there were like segments that were really short at like a tournament, maybe that were like, hey, do you like StarCraft? Check this out. You actually like incorporated there, maybe. But yeah, that's kind of taking away from the tournament format a little bit.
I've always shared that opinion, actually, that we should do that, kind of like when poker took over in America. When it started out, like every commercial break, they'd have, you know, a little section where they're like, this is the best hand. Like, here you can fold or raise, you know, that type of thing. And it was just like the TV show would literally show you how to play. And poker just boomed hugely because of that.
That's actually a really interesting idea, especially for more of the like grassroots tournaments. Like, it might be hard for us to get like a WCS broadcast to do that, right? But there's nothing stopping us from doing that on any community tournament that's run. And like you see this week in StarCraft, right? We've got freaking 20 of them a week. We could easily throw that together.
Yeah, that's true.
It's an interesting idea. One of the things that I would always say is, you know, the power to share information is in your hands, which is, you know, if you like content, if you enjoy it, you find it worthwhile, etc. Don't let the content creator just be the only person trying to share it and promote it. Though the content creators in StarCraft, I think we all need to do a much better job of of promoting. Most of the YouTube people that I've talked to who are like the big people with lots of followers and subscribers, they say they spend about 50% of their time promoting the other 50% that they've been creating.
Send us your stuff.
So send the Pylon Show your stuff and we'll
definitely say it.
Do your part. And that also, I think, goes doubly for how important it is to join a team or clan. People play games because their friends or people that they like are playing them and talking about them. When you don't have anybody to talk about a game, you're less incentivized to play it because humans are a social creature. So, I mean, this always comes up with, how do I get more people to play Brood War? It's like, get your friends to play it. If your friends are playing it and you're actively engaging your friends, they will want to play it more because people like to do what their friends are doing. I started playing Guild Wars 2. The game's like been dead for 10 years because all my friends started playing it.
Like it makes it hype, right?
Yeah. No one cares like that it's not Fortnite and there's not 1,000 billion people playing it. They care because their friends are playing it.
Yeah.
So find a group of friends or join your group of friends.
I think not only does it make it like way more approachable, there's also a time outcome benefit that you get, because if you have a bunch of friends who play and you're struggling with a specific thing, you don't have to like queue up on ladder and just hope somebody does that specific cheese to you. You can have your buddy like, hey, can you just cheese my brains out for 2 hours while I get good at this? Like, I just want to know how to hold this one thing. That's so much more efficient than like, okay, I have a 1 in 3 chance of even hitting the right race. And then like, hopefully they pick the right build, right? It's really inefficient comparatively.
That's for sure. All right. Another great question. Damn. Having a lot of those say. All right. Sate0 asks, Artosis, you are playing StarCraft 64. You're killing AI with drones. You are doing casual casting in Nyoken. Stop becoming a fun-loving individual. You are not like this. Blink if you are okay. We can save you. Not a question, but am I not a fun-loving guy? I guess not. Also, CPL for Brood War, Coach Pupil League. Signups open until February 16th. Look into it. All right. Thanks, Sate0. Excellent. All right. Pylon Pefo asks, Dear Artosis and awesome guests, talking about new RTS games on the scene, I'm enjoying the free demo of Empire of the Undergrowth. Did any of you try it and enjoyed it? I haven't heard of this one.
Neither have
I
I.
don't either.
All right. Well, maybe we'll hear of it and try it out at some point. I don't know. Sorry for none of us hearing about it. All right. Mitchimus asks, regarding the drone drama, would adding inhibitor zone generators to the main and maybe the natural mineral patches help the early game? This could effectively increase the duration of the early game without needing a patch. Players could still oversaturate, and gas wouldn't have to be affected. This just reminds me, like, I made a joke months ago about how we should have, like, you should have gold mineral patches in your main base, but you mine under an inhibitor zone to balance it out. It just seems so goofy.
Like at this point, when you're coming up with this complex of a problem, like a solution to a problem, like maybe we just take a step back here.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think Mitchimus is a god. I love this question. This is fantastic.
This is some Fear Dragon shit right here.
Right?
This is some Fear Dragon shit.
What if every 3 times your drone mines something, they turn into an SCV, which then starts building a supply depot? Like,
Well, I don't
I don't
know
know
if
what's
we'll ever
going
have
on with
inhibitor zones
SE2
over
and your like
patches.
mining problems lately, but I'm very interested in all these ridiculous scenarios people keep coming up with.
I can tell you exactly what it is. We're just in the middle of our longest off season we've ever had, and people are so fucking bored that we need to complain about something. So, as Katowice starts, I think that this talk will die down quite a bit.
Oh, thank God.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for the question, kinda. All right. Hyper Turtle asks, what are some good ways to organize large casual games in StarCraft 2 and StarCraft Remastered? It's difficult to find multiple players with similar skill levels in much less similar schedules. So how do you organize large casual games?
I think it comes down to the streamer again, honestly. Like people who are on all the time. Like if you can maybe convince, or if streamers kind of just like start, getting into it more and more, like they're the ones who I feel like have the obligation or like the duty to set up stuff like this. If you want to make it easy, like setting it up yourself is a lot harder if you don't really have a voice. So I don't know. I think just shout out to CD in the Third, because he actually does stuff like this all the time. He sets up games between all these different types of people, and he also is a massive streamer, so he gets tons of people involved into it as well. And it's definitely a cool aspect of the community, but I think it's the streamer's job to do that, honestly.
Seems like a really good guy.
CPL has a Looking for Game channel, and also encourages players to play at the end of the week tournament, in which it's just a whole bunch of casual games. Commonly, I think the StarCraft Remastered community does a lot of King of the Hill kind of stuff. A lot of new players don't really want to play in it because most of the King of the Hill players are like 1,500 plus. And it's also kind of scary for people like me to play and be like, oh, random people on my chat who wants to come play me, because they're all apparently 2,200 MMR pros from Korea. Except for that one guy who kept telling me what to do, and then I destroyed him with Protoss in a game, and then he got banned.
He'd probably beat your Terran though. All right.
You can also approach this from like the other direction, right? And say, how do I find people at my skill level who play when I play, right? This is another answer that's going to get me kicked off the show. But, if you're nice to your ladder opponent, right? And then you become friends with them, well, they're at your level by nature, right? Because you queued them. And they play when you play because you queued them. So maybe you can be friends and practice partners. That's another way to do it.
That's a really good thing, I think, that you just said there, because they literally are your level. So that's and they're on playing when you're on playing. Yes. It sounds like a perfect match.
The ladder button is magic.
Does anybody know how to say, do you want to become my friend in Korean? Because that would be very useful for this tactic.
Okay, so
they're going to message you back in Korean, so you need the
I'm going to need the
you need the response there too. All right, another good question. Thank you, Hyper Turtle. Pulse Reaction asks, love the conversation. What do you think of series of videos where the same person is being coached? Vibe series are amazing. Would love to see one with a single player being coached and climbing from the low leagues to master. A pupil league would be awesome for StarCraft 2 also.
This is me. You can watch my stream because Printf and HJax coached me, and I started when I was bronze. So yeah, come.
Perfect.
Do you guys ever do live coaching, or is it usually online?
So I'm in a weird spot right now because I just moved and I'm like building on a new studio, a la Up a Tree. But when we start back up again, we will probably try to get some regular coaching in. And it's just laddering and those guys telling me how to play better.
That Printf guy is quite brilliant. I like him.
Yeah, he's a smart dude.
Great command too.
Nice.
Sorry.
Right.
Programmer humor.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Pulse Reaction. Nikolai Chakov asks, ethical query, should we help DARPA with their killer drone program? How does everyone feel about our community being used by the U.S. military?
Well, drones aren't killers. They turn into buildings.
Look at this guy. He's more Fear Dragon stuff coming out right now. Well, I mean, I don't know. I just read the news on This Week in StarCraft. I haven't really thought about it very much yet. I like anything scientific going on with StarCraft. It's always interesting to see, like, oh, what type of data are they pulling and how are they learning from this? I'm just kind of fascinated with that stuff. But I've been on the NA.
Oh, you cut out.
Rip.
I'll remember you, Artosis. All right, I'm going to answer this question in the best way that I could possibly put it, which is if all the drones get really good, then they're just going to be drone versus drone fights, and it's just going to be StarCraft 2, but in real life, but without actual people dying, just drones dying. How cool would that be?
I guess, yeah, that is that's the most favorable take you could have on it, right? If you wanted to feel okay about it. I don't know. I do think it's scary. I also think it's probably inevitable that some country will do this. I don't know. Mixed feelings.
Mm.
All right. Do you guys hear me and everything?
Yeah.
Yes, you're back.
Yeah.
All right. My PC messed up. I don't know what you guys heard from me, but yeah. I don't have any strong opinions about it. Something I read an hour ago and then talked the whole time. All right. Well, it's a reasonable question, though, I guess, isn't it? Thank you, Nikolai, for that. Captain Happa asks, what would you tell a StarCraft 2 player who just lost 8 ladder games in a row?
Drink water. Get up. Take a stretch.
Yep.
Shake it
You
off.
probably won't lose 9 in a row. Like, your MMR is falling. You're going to beat someone eventually.
Yeah. With each loss, you are one step closer to finding the human whose ass you will kick.
That is so true. That's a really good point.
Also, gambler's fallacy. The previous couple of games don't really change the result of the next game. So, right. I mean, it's not like there's going to be a chain that's necessarily happening, except for the fact that MMR changes. So there's a little bit of fatigue there, but, you know, technically speaking, the only thing that's really connected between each of those games is your mindset.
All right. Thanks for the question. I Love Oof asks, joining a team is the best way to go for a new player to a hardcore player, especially college SC2 teams. TESPA/CSL stopped doing StarCraft 2 this year, but CEA just announced a $28,000 college tournament. Thank you, Toby. Thoughts on college StarCraft 2's future? How can we increase viewership and community care for it? Oh, that's very interesting. So yeah, it looks like the other college leagues dropped that, but I did see that news this morning. It didn't make it into the show notes quite in time, but the CEA and Shopify CEO Toby put up a bunch of money, I guess, for scholarships for StarCraft 2. But what do you guys think about the whole collegiate scene and whatnot?
I think it's awesome. I wish it was around when I was going to school, and I feel like to make it not disappear again. I mean, this is just kind of like a statement, I guess. It's kind of, I don't know how much it would apply, but like it just maybe promotion of it more, just kind of like I was talking about like YouTube earlier, like just making it more known that these are things that you should be involved in. They're really cool. It's like a different dynamic of StarCraft to be a part of, and it's something to get excited about if you actually are going to be viable to participate in them as well. I don't like, one thing that I will say personally that I miss a lot, that doesn't happen nearly as much nowadays, that happened a lot more in Wings of Liberty, is Clan Wars. I loved being a part of them, and I loved watching them. And this is definitely like an opportunity to promote that more. So just having some way to promote it further through organizations or through individuals who are taking big parts of it. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain something to it, right? People always talk about missing team leagues. Oh, you know, we miss Pro League, we miss GSTL. Like, there's a certain hype to, you know, entity A versus entity B, and like, oh, you know, the first player lost, but will the second one be able to like kind of carry for the team? Like, that's hype, and it doesn't need to be Korean, you know, GM pro gamer level play to be hype. Like, collegiate play is actually really, really exciting. I definitely think it's cool.
I mean, going all the way to like CPL, where it's just like a whole bunch of new players. I always love watching and casting CPL games, man. Like, you have no idea what's gonna happen because they have no idea what's gonna happen. It's great, you know. Like, you get two people who are equally matched, and you're just watching them go at it, and you're like, we're doing PvP, and there's scouts on the map. I don't know what's gonna happen here, Python. What do you think's gonna happen? It's actually a lot of fun. So I think just, you know, hyping it up, getting those clan matches happening, that even if they're not good clans, you know, they're not like pro players or anything, I think it's all awesome.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, if you have two players that are well matched, that makes a good match. Just generally speaking, it's not like, for instance, if you have two players playing basketball and neither one can get the ball in the hoop, that's going to get boring very fast. But in StarCraft, someone's going to win. It doesn't matter who's playing.
It might look real weird.
All right. But cheers to Shopify and Toby for getting that together and
literally saving esports.
And yeah, props to them, and slops to Tespa and CSL for apparently dropping StarCraft 2 this year. What the fuck? We're just not going to have any hard games, nothing that's 1 versus 1 anymore. It's just we're gonna. I mean, is that how you're gonna? Oh, it hurts my brain. Okay, take a breath. Thank you for the question, I love Oof. All right, Polly asks, at what point can I say that I am not a noob anymore? At a certain MMR, Masters 3, or do I have to be GM for getting rid of being a noob?
Oh, it's perception.
I mean, I would say a lot of GMs are noobs too.
Yeah, so would I.
It just matters your perception of it. For
yeah,
sure.
It's really like where you want to put yourself. You know, if you want to call yourself not a noob, you just freaking go for it, man.
I think you go find the whatever the 50% mark is, right? When you're better than half of everybody who cares about playing StarCraft, then you can say it.
Yeah. I mean, I would just, at that point, you just use that backhanded kind of compliment that I always use for people, but use it as a compliment for yourself for real, where you're just like, yo, man, I'm top of the bell curve.
There it is. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thank you for the question. Alessander asks, question, what should Team Wardy TV's shirt design look like? It's going to need a kick-ass symbol. Baby blue?
A big W.
Yeah.
Just a big W.
Yeah.
That's it.
Winter's already suing this person. He's calling his lawyer right now.
Winter versus Wardy. Oh my God. That would be a great legal battle right there. All right. Thank you for the question, Alessander, and for making the show notes as always. Some other guy asks, playing Zerg StarCraft 2 at Plat, I noticed the way Zerg macro mechanics work makes me kind of bad at constantly producing stuff. Is it a general thing new Zerg players should be aware of? Should I care about that at my current level? If so, any advice on how to work on that? Watch Tasteless Podcasts on YouTube. So yeah, what do we have to say about that? This is a perfect question for you, Vibe.
No, I know, but I actually was kind of zoning out. I was reading chat for the first 5 seconds.
Oh, sure.
That, so can you read it
okay,
again?
So let me do it again. Okay, so he's a StarCraft 2 Zerg at Platinum, and he says that the way that the macro mechanics work makes it hard to constantly produce. Is it something that new players should be aware of?
Okay.
Does he care about it at his current level, and any advice on how to work on it?
So my advice to you would be just to get in the process of repetition, and just really, if you mess it up a little bit, it's okay. Just work on it more in the future. But they made it so much easier now in Legacy of the Void than it was in Wings of Liberty, because you can actually stack injects, which is a big part of your macro mechanic of Zerg, before you actually have to time it perfectly every time to do it right. So just make sure, I would say the biggest thing for you, for everybody who is struggling to improve on this, is make sure your resource allocation is correct. And it's something as simple as learning something like, am I doing a build that techs faster, or am I doing a build that with 2 base tech, or am I doing a build that actually goes for a 3rd base? And generally speaking, you can get away with 1 gas all the way to 3 bases, or you can get away with 3 gases on 2 bases. That's literally it. And then you just make your mineral lines, saturate them as fast as you can, and make a macro hash if you have trouble spinning your larva still. And that's it.
Great. All right. I think you nailed answering that question. Hope that helps some other guy. NeosteelEnthusiast asks, a stranger approaches you and says they're considering playing Brood War or StarCraft 2 ladder. Imagine the chances of running into one of you 4 big-brained gentlemen. They have played the campaign, maybe watched some e-gaming, but nothing more. What's your elevator pitch on how to get started on the ladder? So a quick pitch for someone new that's thinking about maybe starting laddering. How do you get them to do it?
I would say, like, hey, dude, just relax. It's okay. It's not a big deal. You're gonna win. You're gonna lose. It's all right. You're gonna definitely improve as a person. It's gonna make every other aspect of your life a little bit better. But just don't get super pissed off when you lose. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back to the thing that I was saying earlier. I think it's a really good tool for looking inward, right? Because it's going to create frustrating emotional situations and stuff like that very, very reliably, and give you a chance to kind of like look at that and attack it and introspect and that kind of thing. And it's going to make you really good at like using a keyboard and mouse, which is a pretty applicable skill, I think.
I mean, if you want to play Brood War and you're like trying to get into ladder, I guess my questions are you trying to win without doing anything? Are you trying to win by getting angry at yourself? Are you trying to win by doing some just like ridiculous weird thing that the other 2 races aren't doing?
Yeah.
Trying to just win, Protoss. Trying to win by getting angry at yourself, Terran. You're trying to win by doing some ridiculously hard thing that no one else is doing, play Zerg. Boom.
I would actually show somebody like a controller. Maybe you have like a drone or something, and you actually reverse all the controls where like left is actually right, up is down, or maybe down is left and up is right. It's just super awkward. No one can figure it out. And you're like, does this actually sound fun to you? And then if they say yes, you say, okay, you can play Brood War. Or you can show somebody a controller that works properly, and you go, how does this feel? Up is up, down is down, left is left, right is right. Okay, you can play StarCraft 2.
Beautiful mind. Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question, NeosteelEnthusiast. VDEC asks, what StarCraft-related events are you most looking forward to this year? This month? This weekend? P.S. I got a coupon for coaching with Vibe from a giant Smurf who got it from Pokebunny, but Vibe won't honor it.
Oh,
how do I get him to honor it?
You guys been talking about this for years.
Those are 2 names from the Cybercraft New York City StarCraft 2 lands that I know, a giant Smurf and Pokebunny.
Yeah. It wasn't official. Okay. It expired. I can't validate it. All right. Okay. It expired. Okay. Drop it.
This is amazing. I can't believe you had coupons at some point.
I never did, honestly. I literally never did, but he just brings it up all the time.
Amazing.
That's funny. And what are you looking forward to most for StarCraft related events this year, guys?
I don't know, just tournaments. Like, just, I'm pretty easy to please when it comes to what I'm looking forward to. I just want to see like storylines again, see who does well, see if like someone just crushes again. I think Cyril crushing for the entire year of like 2018 was awesome. I'd love to see something like that again, just like a domination. But yeah, just checking out events.
Yeah, same. I like everything. I watch everything. I pretty much always have tournaments going in the background. I do like the narrative stuff. I actually don't like the domination of like one player. I like when it's kind of, there's a few mixing it up. I think that's a little bit more interesting.
I think for this year, all the ASLs, obviously. The next couple of BSLs. The BSL that's going to be at the end of this year is going to be worth like $10,000 or something like that. That sounds really interesting to me. But this month, I'm going to DreamHack Anaheim, where I'm just going to bring a PC that I'm building currently on my floor right now. And I'm going to play Brood War and whatever else the people that I'm going with are playing. And then there's the LA LAN in March 7th. So if you're in the LA area, you should go to the LA LAN.
Cool. I mean, I'm looking forward to GSL starting back up. Have been for months and months and months. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And for StarCraft 1, looking forward to the new Corrupted Cup for this year. I hope to win NA again and get to play, hopefully. We'll see. All right, thank you for the question, VDEC. All right, last one. Wurzag asks, sadly, my last question for a while, since it turns out houses are expensive, so I need to cut my Patreon. No problem, man. Just wanted to say thanks for the content and all the episodes. I will be back when I can. Cheers.
Not a question.
Congrats on your house. All right, yeah, not a question as well.
That's my last question. Not a question, but congrats on the house.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that pretty much does it. This was a lot of fun. Got to go ahead and thank everyone for their support on the Patreon. You guys are amazing. Check out patreon.com/ThePylonShow. This is the greatest way that you can end up supporting the show. And of course, check out ThePylonShow.com. This is where you can get everything Pylon Show related, literally everything. It's in the name. It's ThePylonShow.com. So it's very easy to remember. Definitely check it out. Big cheers to the entire Pylon Show team. I don't make this alone. As anyone who knows me knows, I would have no idea how to do it. Also, check out matcherino.com/ThePylonShow. That is somewhere that you can support us, and type into the coupon code JELLO, because it's like National Jello Day or month or week or whatever it might be. Yeah, that does it for the sponsor shout outs. Guys, why don't you tell everybody where they can find more of you, what you want them to watch, and all those things. Shamtu, let's start with you.
So you can check me out on twitch.tv/Shamtu. I'm going to be going live after this to go rage on ladder. Check out my YouTube for youtube.com/Shamtu. I only have the first tutorial video up. I'm going to try and get the other one done on Monday and get that uploaded. Again, this episode's going to be about, it's going to be like 2, 3, 4 minutes long. This is going to be about how to select units, group mapping, shift select, control select, and then just like general, control group templates that I use just to kind of teach people a little bit. And twitter.com/Shamtu if you want to listen to someone who has absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
All right, perfect. Hey, Orit, how about you? Where can people find more of your stuff?
Yeah, so predominantly, I think of myself as a live streamer, so Twitch, just Aoret, AORET. I'm pretty active on Twitter, AoretSC2, YouTube as well. I try to cut like stream VODs, AoretSC2 there as well. And I do have a couple of series, Bite-Size StarCraft 2 for like very beginner level mechanics, Approachable StarCraft 2, that's for your non-StarCraft person, significant other, sibling, etc. Pitch for me as a streamer. I'm kind of just the every nerd's nerd. I'm just like you. I'm just a guy struggling to get good at the game. I'm not good yet, but I'm trying. Yeah, so that's what you can expect from my latter streams. Currently not streaming because I'm building out a new studio and just moved, but look for me soon.
Great. And Vibe, how about you?
I am a full-time StarCraft 2 streamer for the most part. Every once in a while, I'll do a little bit of variety, but if you guys want to check out my content, I stream 6 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/VibeLOL, and I have the same name on YouTube and Twitter. Just those websites /VibeLOL will take you to all those other things. And if you guys are like, this is too confusing, I don't understand, if you just go to twitch.tv/VibeLOL, there's links down below that'll link you to everything else I basically do. And if you guys don't know who I am or what I do, basically I've gone through phases. I'm a retired pro gamer who used to be cranky, and now I'm a little okay, and I'm easygoing. So my channel basically is all about teaching you how to play StarCraft or other games, and also doing it in like a relaxed atmosphere, basically.
Yeah. Don't forget, Vibe was once upon a time the champion of America. So was very, very smart, strong player.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. And as for me, once again, a big thanks to everyone for supporting the show. Thanks for you guys coming on. And our $100 tier, Astrofin, Field of Sins, Jerry Wang, Manard, and Shane. Thanks so much, guys, for that. And yeah, I've been streaming a ton and working on my YouTube a lot. So definitely check out youtube.com/ArtosisTV. That about does it. I'll be on streaming tomorrow and just continually do YouTube video every day. So check that out. And see you guys next week on The Pylon Show. Thanks for watching.